I'm your host, Ariel.
And I'm your host, Alyssa,
Welcome to Ghost Tea Podcast.
a podcast for those who seek magic.
Hello, ghosties. Welcome back.
Hello! Today we're going to be going back to a previous topic to expand on it further in a part 2. And that subject is Deity Work!
Yes, I'm so excited. I think this is very, very needed. But as always, I just want to remind you all that everybody has different views on things, and that's okay. We don't ask you to believe what we do or practice the way that we do. We just want to share what we've found in our personal path with others to help you on your journeys.
This is especially important for this episode because we're going to be discussing some of the hard truths around deity work. We're going to get honest. We're going to get
Yes.
real. We're going to get real and
So
honest.
buckle up, babes.
Strap it in. Here we
Oh,
go. I mean, there's a few
okay.
reasons to why
Yeah.
we decided to do a part 2 and do one that's a little bit more geared towards some hard truths. And that's because there were some follow-up questions from our first deity work episode where some people had some topics and questions that they wanted to cover. And also, Ariel and I, upon some reflection, we've realized that we tend to approach deity work in a way that perhaps to some might come across as if it is constantly manageable and super approachable in every shape and form, when really it isn't like that. And, it's in the name deity work, it requires work. And there are just some things around it that I think we just need to break through the ice and really talk about together.
Yeah.
And
We need to get honest.
we do. And so, in this episode, we're going to take the approach as practitioners who are not only deity workers and deity practitioners themselves, but also as spiritual coaches, but also as the through the lens of people who really want to give you some honest truths to help you in your deity work and to take it to the next level rather than remaining at the beginner stages.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't get past the beginner stages if you're not willing to get uncomfortable. So
Mhm.
we have to push the envelope a little bit. And I do want to make it clear that Alyssa and I are not going into this episode trying to make you feel bad about
Mhm.
anything that you're doing, but also trying to make sure that you're going into deity work or continuing in your deity work with a really realistic view of things. Because
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of times when we have maybe sugar-coated things a little bit and made it possibly come across easier than we should have.
Mhm.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that sometimes, but we just really need to be super,
Yeah.
super honest.
We
So,
just really want things to feel approachable and to not be scary to people and to be
yeah.
empowered to try something new. But what we have learned in our experience with deity work and with helping people through their spiritual journeys that includes working with divinity, there just is some hard realities and some honest truths that you kind of just have to accept and take it for what
Yeah.
it is. And as much as we would love to give that to you in a palatable way, sometimes it just isn't that way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, hopefully this
Yeah.
will provide you some interesting insight and have you walking away with a newfound appreciation for the beauty of deity work and also to be able to consider these hard truths in a much deeper way so that you can empower
Yes.
yourself and grow yourself in your own spiritual journey.
And if you haven't listened to the first episode of Deity Work, we highly recommend you do that before you get into this one. If you
Mhm.
have already listened to that one, just go ahead, sit down with your snacks and your tea and
Mhm.
join us. Get cozy.
I
But
get you.
Alyssa, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on identifying a deity because someone had a question about how to identify a deity that's coming through for you. Because a lot of people will have maybe signs coming up or feel like, they're having a lot of deities show up on their For You pages or they're having a
Mhm.
lot of people talk about deities. Like, what are some techniques that you recommend someone uses to identify a deity that's coming in for them?
Hell yeah. That's a good question. It really
Let's
is.
talk about it.
It really is a good question in the sense that, especially if you want to identify a deity yourself and not necessarily
Yes.
go
Yeah.
to an experienced practitioner. And like Ariel and I, we do this for a living. We've
Yeah.
identified hundreds of deities.
We've had to get used to doing it quick.
We've had to get used to doing it quick. We know how our abilities work. We know what things to look for, and it comes with anything, right? Like the more experience you have doing something, you just get more proficient with it. And
Yeah.
so if you are looking to identify a deity yourself, there's a couple of ways you can do it. If you were to rely on tarot, which tends to be the go-to for a lot of people, and I can see why. It's a great
Yeah.
resource. It's a great divination method.
It's very approachable, but I do think that having a fairly solid idea of how to read tarot is a
Mhm.
really important part of it.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. And if you're going to be using tarot to identify a deity, I what I would recommend is go big and then funnel in. So what I mean by
Yeah.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
is keep in mind there's thousands of deities, like
Yeah.
thousands of them.
Yes.
So you know what you know. You don't even know what you don't know. You know what I mean? So if you
Right.
go into trying to identify a deity without even like having a good grasp on a large swath of different pantheons that are
You're
available
trying
to
to
you,
get one fish out of the sea,
oh,
like
it's you're doing yourself a disservice really at that point because it's not to say that you need to know every deity that exists. It's just
Yeah.
there's ways that you can go big and funnel in. So first identify what pantheon is available to you. So what deities are open to you and which ones are closed. And that is up to you to figure out on your own. Only you will know what kind of heritage you have and what is available to you through your ancestry
Yeah.
or through your culture. So identify what is available to you and what is not. And then what I would do from there is I would have a separate spread for each level. So you would start with, for example, a spread for identifying a pantheon specifically. So if there's a deity
Mhm.
coming in and you have a spread specific for a pantheon identifier, assign a pantheon to different cards. You could assign the Kemetic pantheon to the Chariot card, for example, or infernals to like the devil. Let's go on the
Yeah,
nose.
yeah.
Why not, baby?
Oh, yeah.
So
Go super direct.
let's do it. So, do that because I feel like that's a great starting point. And then from there, once you've narrowed into the pantheon, then you can narrow into the major spheres of influence or domains of this deity, and perhaps even also their sort of more dominant energy, whether it's, quote unquote masculine or quote unquote feminine or androgynous, and get a sense of what is it that they represent, what are their major archetypes, like what is it that that deity represents or is known to
Mhm.
represent in
Yeah.
their mythology. And then as you squeeze it in further from there, now that you know the pantheon and you know the major themes, now you can really start to get down into, okay, well, who is this, like who are you, like really show me some good identifiers for who you are now that I've been able to squeeze it further down.
Yeah.
And again, this is only just using one method of divination, and it's likely
Yeah.
going to take you multiple days.
Oh,
Like,
yeah. Because you can be like, "What are you associated with?" And you might get the magician, so maybe
yeah.
they're associated with, like, magic and witchcraft and things like that, or you might get the hierophant, maybe they're associated with
Mhm.
knowledge. Like, things like that can help you kind of narrow it down with tarot in particular.
Mhm.
I like using methods like bones or coins or dice because it's just yes or no, or
Mhm.
like maybes even, because it's just a little bit more straightforward. And if you don't know tarot too, sometimes that
Mhm.
can be helpful, but it can also limit too. Like
Yeah.
there's benefits to tarot and there's benefits to just having that straightforward. So if I have to use divination, I'll try to do something like really specific, like yes or no, and then start going into tarot to kind of get details. But it's up to the practitioner.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I use multiple forms of divination. I will use
Yeah.
tarot. I will use a particular form of oracle that is based completely on archetype. I will use bones. I will use a little bit of pendulum sometimes. Like I will use a variety of different methods and also my clear abilities. So I would
Yeah.
recommend as you are identifying a deity, use multiple varieties for multiple opportunities and avenues to find your answer. And again, I wanted to get honest with you. if you feel like a deity is coming forward to you and you use tarot and you pull one spread and you decipher that there's 5 deities coming forward for you, bullshit. Stop.
No.
That's not even, stop it. Just do the work, take your time, relax. You're going to want to take your time on this because you want to make sure that you're not trying to force a connection to
Yeah.
a deity that isn't actually the one that's coming forward for you.
Yeah, exactly. And well, because there's so many people who will have a certain deity in mind that they want to work with. So you're always going to be looking for that.
I've seen
You know,
that. I've
like
had that in
yeah,
sessions. I have.
yeah.
I have
I've
had,
had that myself.
and myself, and
I've had that
I've
myself.
had one where I was like, I'm pretty sure it's this one, and it's like,
Yep.
no,
Yep.
not that
Yeah.
one.
I have had that happen too. So even the most experienced practitioners can have bias and want a certain deity to come through and then they're just like, "Psych, it's not that person." And that's okay, but you have to be honest with yourself. Why am I wanting it to be this particular deity?
Mhm.
And really get honest with yourself because that is going to sway the way that you see signs
Yep.
and things like that. So that's important to be aware of.
And actually, that's a great segue into another question, which is what makes a deity want to work with me? And I want to split it into two different things because what you talked about is maybe somebody wanting to work with a deity versus a
Yeah.
deity wanting to work with you. So there's two
Yeah.
different avenues that deity work can be approached. It could be you are receiving signs from a deity and then you figure out who it is, or there is one you have in mind that you are really drawn to and you really want to reach out to. And in both of those scenarios, you can find success and you can also find a roadblock. Like
Yeah.
it's either like you take the time to figure out who it is coming forward, or you go to someone who does that for a living or offers that as a service. Or if you want to work with a deity, as we talked about in the first part of deity work, you're the one who does the research. You reach out and see if they're amenable to working with you. But
Yes.
as far as why does a deity want to work with us and what is their motivations behind it? Well, that's a great theological question that we don't
Oh,
really
that we
have.
could have a whole episode just about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I mean, neither of us are goddesses, though feel free to call us that. Um, so I can't really speak on behalf of a god as to why they have an interest in humanity and the relationship that comes with assisting us along our journey. But one can assume a few reasons for that. And if you think about it, it makes sense as far as each deity has a domain or spheres of influence or archetypes that they're associated with and things that they rule over in a sense. So it makes sense that they would want to shape the experience of a person and thus humanity in a way that reflects their values or what they represent. So
Mm.
I can get it from that perspective, but also who really knows? So
Yeah, yeah. We can only speculate really
yeah, we can
because
just speculate.
yeah. Yeah,
But
and
there's
we kind of went over that in the first episode
mhm,
too of like when we were talking about God spousal and like
mhm,
why a deity would want a God spouse someone and that is kind of along the same lines of like
for sure.
it depends.
It
You're gonna hear that
depends.
a lot from
Yep,
us in this
yep.
episode because a lot of things depend on the circumstances and what they want from you. That sounded very ominous, but what they want from you.
What are their
um,
plans?
and what are their plans? But I
Sinister.
do think that it is very personal.
It
It's
is.
really personal. Some of them might want you to really be a human representative of their archetype in the world and then not in an egotistical way. I'm not telling you to say I'm a prophet. I'm a prophet. You know, I'm
I
like
prophesize,
please
prophesize.
don't do that. Please don't do that. But in the sense that, you know, you are someone who, like, for example, if I were to be like representing Frege, being someone who's kind and understanding and is welcoming and things like that, that represent who she is as a goddess and honor her through that. But it's not me being Frege on earth. It's me representing her energy. And that is part of the patron agreement too.
Yep.
That goes more into patronage, but still, like it depends.
It
It
really
depends.
depends. And also, what is it about you, the experiences you've had or currently have or may have, that deity would take an interest in helping guide you through or teach you lessons with? And so there's a variety of different reasons for why a particular deity would take an interest in assisting you with something. Having a deity have interest in working with you or coming forward to work with you is much different than the concept of them choosing you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So this concept of I am chosen or
That's
they chose
scary.
me. Be very careful with that rhetoric. I don't like it. I find it to be a gateway into a lot of dangerous thinking and can spiral out of
It's a
control very
one up.
easy.
It's a one up thing.
Yeah, it is.
It's
Well,
a
it
one up
is.
thing.
And listen, there's like what 8 billion of us on this planet now, and
Yeah.
we are temporary. Our human lives are temporary. The gods are omnipresent and ever present and eternal. We're unique and individual in a lot of ways, but you like this concept of like Artemis chose me. I'm the chosen one. I am her prophet or something like that. Like that's
Yeah.
disgusting. I hate that. So it's just that is to me a bigger sign that you're probably not ready for deity work if that's the mentality that you're approaching it with. Deities do come forward to us and they do give us signs, but like again, it comes down to like what's your perspective on it. If you're looking at that like I've been chosen or I'm the chosen one in that kind of way, like you know the way I'm talking about, like in a very ego driven, like
Yeah.
holier than thou. Like if you're approaching it from that, deity work is not meant for you and that you have much deeper soul searching to do and a lot more self-reflection. But if
Yes.
you're using that term instead to be like, oh, this deity is really coming to me and you're using the word chose
Right.
me, okay,
Right.
that's whatever. I would just choose a different terminology because honestly, it doesn't make anyone look good. I don't know. Just
Yeah.
anybody who says they like X deity chose me just sounds
Yeah.
horrendous,
Yeah, even if you don't mean it to
even
sound
if you don't mean
egotistical,
it that way.
it sounds that way. It's one of those, like, words that no matter how you go about it, it just kinda comes off in a way that people assume, and it's usually not in the way that you want to. But
Mhm.
I would also argue too that, like, if you are feeling as though a deity has chosen you in that you feel as though you might be one of the more important, quote unquote, practitioners of theirs, that, in my opinion, is something that can be shadow worked. That is something where
Mhm.
you should be like, I mean, as Alyssa said, that's a shadow worked prompt. That's something where you have to ask yourself, why do I have to feel needed?
Yeah.
Because that's the question. It's not whether or not they need you, it's why you feel that you need to be needed by them.
Yeah.
Because do you feel worthy to be human if you're not?
Ding.
That's a hard question.
Isn't
I
it?
don't wanna answer that question right now for myself.
That's the question, and this is all part of it, right? And we haven't even gotten into,
Oh,
like,
we're going
other
yeah.
aspects. We're just at the beginning here.
Oh, we're
So,
just right at the tippy toes
we're
of the
just
lake.
at the tip of the iceberg. So listen, there's a variety of different ways and methods for which they will reach out to us. They will send signs, they will give you memories, they will find ways that if they want to be known, they will be known.
Oh, they will. They'll show up at your friend's house.
Yes, they
They'll
will, which I don't know, I think we've shared that before on our
I
podcast,
think we
but
have. I
yeah.
think we have. But
Basically,
yeah.
TLDR for those who are new, also welcome, you're a ghosty.
Hi.
TLDR, Odin, which is one of, Ariel's patrons, showed up at the end of my bed at a good I think it was like a cool 4 a.m. or 3 a.m. in the morning,
Oh,
and I just
yeah,
saw
it
this
was like yeah.
gigantic Nordic god with one eyeball just, like, looming over the edge of my bed, and I was like, "Well, this is a fantastic way to wake up." It was basically just like, "Ariel needs to do XYZ," and I'm like, "Oh, for the
And you're
love of
like,
God."
"Why are you telling me?" She goes online and I'm online as like, at 3 AM or something my time, and she came into my comments, she's like, "Ariel, tell me Odin is at the base of my bed right now. And I was like, oh my God. And I had literally been talking about him on live stream and how I was not ready to work with him. So he went to Alyssa and was like, I want to work with Ariel. And she was like, it is 5 a.m. in Canada, sir. Like,
It's like, could we wait? Like, I have work in 2 hours. Like, what is
yeah.
this? What is this bullshit?
So
Yeah,
they
basically.
will come through, even
They
if
will.
people are not practitioners. I've had
Mhm.
my own brother
Mhm.
who doesn't work with deities come to me and be like, I keep having these dreams
I've had strangers. I've
about
had
about
strangers say
Odin. Yeah.
weird shit before. That's
Yeah.
like, that
Oh, and
sounds
I'm
like
just
that
like,
came straight from Artemis.
mm-hmm.
Like, that's an Artemis thing you just fucking said to me. Like, there's
Yeah.
just sometimes there's just ways that they'll come forward and they'll make themselves known. Now listen, now
Oh
you
yeah.
did say something about signs before, and one of the important things that Ariel and I really want to make clear is to not
Oh
use TikTok as a sign.
yes. Don't use algorithms as divination.
Da, 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 da.
That's our little intro song now.
Yeah, well, that should be the intro. Honestly, guys, like, listen, TikTok is a social media app that is literally run
It is
by the most
made. Yes.
incredible algorithm we've ever seen. It is
It's
smart.
great.
It knows what you like and it will show you what you like. So I want to use the example of the hashtag Deity Work. So if you are
Yes.
interested in deity work and you consume content on TikTok about deity work, you will
Mhm.
be inevitably shown content of the most trending or high engagement deity work episodes, which tend to
Yes.
revolve around Akati,
Ding. Yeah.
Loki, and
Yeah.
Lucifer.
Yep. Yep. And not only that, but you don't have to even engage with it.
Nope.
You don't have to click on the video, you don't have to comment on the video, you don't have to share the video. You can just watch the whole thing through
Yep.
and it
Watch
will start
time.
showing you more of that.
Yep.
If you are lurking, everybody knows there are people that lurk on
That work.
lives, okay?
Mhm. Well,
You
we
can
know.
be over a live and not go into it, and
Mhm.
nobody will know that you're watching it because you can watch it from the For You page.
But
You know,
TikTok
when you do
knows.
that, TikTok knows, right? So
TikTok
you
knows.
start seeing more of that person on your For You page.
Mhm.
So I don't care what anybody says. And they're like, I'm not clicking on the Akate videos. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't
Doesn't
matter.
matter. It's going to
Doesn't
show you
matter.
more of that because you
Mhm.
watched the whole video through. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you are wanting signs that a deity is coming through for you, ask for a specific sign.
Mhm. Yep.
That's honestly, that is the best piece of advice we can give you for that is ask for a specific sign, ideally that is not commonly associated with that
Yeah.
deity at all. Like
Yeah.
Ekate, you can say, Ekate, if you're reaching out to me, please show me lilies anywhere in any form over the next 24 hours, at least once,
Mhm. Mhm.
and then look for it.
Choose
Give it
something
a
that's just
time limit.
not, don't choose
Yeah.
skeleton keys or
Don't
dogs
use
or
key.
or
Yeah.
like a
Don't do it.
moon or something. Like,
Mhm.
like, if you really want to know if Kathy's reaching out to you, choose something she's not associated
Yes.
with and ask her. Ask
Yeah.
her. Say, Kathy.
Ideally, and maybe I sound like a little bit of a conspiracy theorist here, but, like, ideally, don't say it out loud.
Honestly, I would, and but not in the presence of
Not
my
yeah, not
phone.
of the yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That's what I'm talking about. Like, if you have
that's
your
what we
phone in
need.
your hand, don't be, like, yelling at your phone like, "Hey, Ekate, send me lilies." Like, don't do that. Don't do that. I
Phones
either
are
write it
listening.
down. Yeah, don't write it like, just write it down or go to
Yeah.
a different room and just be like, "Ekate."
Or you could light a little candle for her and just be like,
Yeah,
"Hey,
yeah,
can you send me a
yeah.
sign?"
Or, like, carve it into the candle, "Send me
Yeah.
lilies."
Oh my god,
I don't
so
care
cute.
how
Love
you do
that.
it, just make sure that I know that was adorable.
That
I
was
love
so
that
cute. That was a
visual.
great. That was awesome.
But, like, if you're gonna do it, just, be conscious of how technology works, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah,
It listens
it's
to us.
really weird when you open up your phone and it shows you something you were just
Oh,
talking
it's
about.
a trip.
It's
I'm
fucking
like,
weird.
why are you listening to me?
I mean, honestly, like I am
Like,
so
sometimes I
not
appreciate
exciting.
it, but sometimes I just don't. I'm just like, "Come on, now."
Like
That
like
was
like why me? I'm so
yeah.
not interesting. We have
Okay.
another question that we absolutely love. What does it mean when a deity gives you something? So, for example, like I was gifted an animal guide. Oh my god,
Yeah.
love this question. The
We've
reason why
both
this
been
question.
gifted them, and they're adorable.
Oh
10 out of 10,
yeah.
do you recommend?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Ariel's got an animal guide that she was gifted, and so do I,
Yes.
and it is amazing. And there are a variety of different reasons for why a deity would gift you an animal guide.
And you know what we're gonna say?
Mm.
It depends.
Mhm, mhm. It depends.
It depends because I mean animal guides in particular because they can gift you many things. Sometimes I've even heard of people being gifted like an ability, although very, very rare.
Ooh.
Usually it's like an animal, which is cool. I'm cool with that too. But sometimes like a gift to you will be that they help you to, unlock an ability for yourself or something. But when it comes to animal guides, what I find really beautiful is that it's a way for them to help you identify different parts of your instincts that you might not even recognize after working with them because when we work with a deity, I think we kind of look at it in more of a human way
Mm,
and human interactions. And sometimes part of what you're supposed to be learning from that deity is on an instinctual side.
mhm,
So it helps us to tune into the more, I guess, animalistic parts of ourselves and that connection and helps us to look at it from a different point of view. So, for example, one of the big lessons that Frege and Odin, who were the ones that gifted me the animal guide that I recently got, recently as in like the last year, was that they wanted me to stand up for myself more and they wanted me to be more assertive and more protective over what was mine. And that animal guide has helped me a lot with that and helped me to kind of step into that more instinctual energy of how to navigate situations like that. And that's kind of how I see animal guides being gifted. I think it's just another way for them to help you to learn a lesson, but maybe in a way where it doesn't really involve too much of the mind and more of the senses.
mhm. And I mean, especially too, like the vast majority of my animal guides don't speak at all.
Mhm.
Like, they
Mhm.
don't speak. They
Yeah.
don't use a voice. They only connect through energy or through visions. So it's not relying on speech or the ability to have that kind of it's a non it's a nonverbal communication. And that is different for me anyway than how I would normally talk with my deities, which is just talking to them. So
Yeah.
it's a really cool gift to get. And I had a similar situation as Ariel. I was gifted an animal guide from Artemis that animal guide specifically represents energies that I find very difficult to incorporate naturally by
Mhm.
myself. There's aspects of that animal guide that is just really hard for me to lean into without being
Yeah.
prompted to do it.
Yeah.
So that animal guide has helped me to learn how to embrace community, sharing more of myself and being more vulnerable, and allowing the beauty of seeing essentially a pack come together rather than having to take everything in life solo. And
Yeah.
I that has been a really key learning experience for me that I guess she felt the best way to teach me that lesson would have been through a gifted animal guide. And I would agree with her because it's been one of the most beautiful experiences. Now, if a deity gives you a gift like that, does that make you extra special? No. That is just part of the way that that deity has chosen to work with you. And
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that you are better than anybody else. That doesn't mean that you get bragging rights. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means that that lesson you are meant to learn and in that through that medium. So I want to caution people to not think that if you don't get a gift like that, that you aren't valuable or worthy or or special or anything like that. Like In the end, it really just depends on the nature of the relationship with that deity and the lessons that you're meant to learn and in what way.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. And I do think that too that if you are gifted an animal guide, for example, of course, like we said, it doesn't have to be an animal guide, but like if it is, what I would encourage you to do if you're unsure of why you're being gifted something like that or what it means is look into that animal. Look into the animal that's coming through and look at how they navigate their habitat and their environment, look at how they interact with other species, look at how they go about their day, like really study that animal because that will give you a lot more understanding of maybe aspects that they're asking you to integrate into your
Hmm.
practice or into your the way that you approach life, and that can give you a lot of clarity because I
Yeah.
think here's the thing. I feel so uncomfortable about saying this, but like it's my it's honest, okay?
Honesty station, we have
Yeah.
arrived.
Yeah. We all know that deity work, or we should know that deity work is work. Like you have to put work in, but if you expect everything to be handed to you in deity work, you shouldn't be doing it.
No,
Absolutely not.
no.
Like if
Yeah.
you if every time they give you something to look into, you're just like, "Oh, well, why can't you just tell me?" No. No.
Yeah.
No. That is not part of the deal. You agreed to do work with them. If you wanna work with a deity, you at some point said, whether verbally or through agreeing to that, "I am willing to do the work in order to learn from you."
Yeah,
And
this
by
essentially
saying, "Why?"
means time,
Yeah.
energy, and attention.
Right,
Don't be
right.
lazy.
And yeah. And it doesn't mean that like you can't, vent about it. Like trust.
Mhm.
Trust. We vent about it all the time. And it's
Mhm.
okay to be frustrated. If you're not getting something right away and you don't understand why something's coming through for you, it's okay to be like, I don't know why. I just don't understand. Like I don't understand what it means yet, but I'm trying to figure it out. That's okay.
That's
That's
great.
okay.
Yep.
But being like, I just want them to tell me, like, why can't you just tell me? I just don't want to do the no,
Yeah.
no, what?
No, why?
No. That's how my grandma used to say it.
No,
No, what?
why? I love that.
Um,
Love the accentuation. Oh, why?
yes, yes. And another question that we had was, and this is a question we get a lot actually, is how often are deities present or around people throughout the day? And do they always respond if you always already are working with them? So if you are working with them or you have them as a patron, do they always respond in comparison to if you're not in a patron connection with them? So I think we should go over because it is kind of different if they're a patron or if they're not. So
Yes.
let's go over if they're not a patron for that person and then if they are.
Yep.
So in my opinion, if you are working with a deity without them being a patron for you, they aren't always present,
Mhm.
in my opinion. Like, they can kinda be in and out. I've had
Yep.
deities come in to work with me, and, like, there's a deity that I'm working with right now who's doing this, where they came in and they were, like, really, really present, and then they just kinda left. And I was
Yep.
like, "Oh, are they not working with me anymore?" And then, like, a situation would come up where they would wanna be helping me with it, and they would come right back in. So, it just kinda depends on what they're working with you on. Like, for example, if they're working with you through shadow work or something like that, every time there's an opportunity for shadow work, they might come in and be like, "Hey, that's what I'm here for." And
Mhm.
so there's that. And if you're not working with them, I think when you call on them, they can kind of come at their leisure.
Yep.
Like even if you're working with them and they're not a patron, I feel like it's similar to if you weren't working with them at all. Like they have the right to just be like, "I'm busy right now," or "I'm not coming in,"
Mhm.
because you haven't made a solid agreement with them other than saying, "I'm going to be willing to work with you on this thing until it's to completion," or until we feel that it's been completed to what we need it to be,
Yep.
at. So that's how I feel about like people not having patrons or not having that deity as a patron rather. When it comes to patron deities though, I
That's
think it's
different.
different.
That's
Yeah.
different.
And Alyssa and I actually talk about this a lot of there have been times where we've just kind of been like, I'm not feeling them as much. Like they're just kind of like not there. And I can't remember which one of our deities said this, but one of them was like, "No, we're here. You just have gotten used to us. Like we're just
I think that was either Lucifer or Fricka. One of the 2 of them, I
one of
think, said
them."
that, and then it clicked. We were like,
It does sound like a
"Oh."
Frege thing to say
It
though.
does sound like a Fricka thing to say, but, like, we were like, "Oh, shit. Oh, that makes
Mhm.
so much sense," because the
That's
thing
kinda
is,
how it was with, like, Hestia too.
oh,
Like
literally the exact same thing. I
mhm.
just didn't know because she didn't
She's
make
like, "I
herself
am
known.
your house."
She's like, "I'm your literal fucking house," and I'm like, "What the shit?" Like, like,
Yeah.
what? Like, it's so bizarre because you don't realize it until you realize it, and then you're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
fuck, whoa." So, yeah, like, that was such an amazing revelation in Ariel where I were talking about it, like, there's just you get so used to their energy being
Yes.
around that they become part of your status quo. That's your baseline now, is
Yeah.
just having that energy with you. So, for me, I don't notice them until they make a concerted effort to be noticed because they're just always sort of present
Yeah.
in this way, as in, like, either I can see them and they're in the background, or I don't see them and I can feel them just,
Yeah.
like, but, like, I don't notice it either because it's just the way it is. It's
Right. Or
hard to
like you'll
explain.
Yeah, or like you'll notice them more when you're doing spell work with them or something like
Yes.
that because
Yes.
it's like their energy comes through really potently
Yeah.
because you're channeling it for them. It's
Mhm.
different in certain scenarios or like when they're coming
Mhm.
through when you're feeling, down or something, I can feel them come in really strongly to
1000%.
like
Yeah.
let me know that that they're there or something like that. So,
Yeah.
I
Like, if
do
I'm
think there's
sad, if I'm upset, or if
yeah.
I'm doing a
Yeah.
particular action, one of them will make himself
Yes.
a bit more known or, like, more present, or if there's something I'm actively learning about, one might come
Yeah.
up and be like, "Did you try doing this?" And I'm like, "What the
Yeah.
hell?" Like, "Hey, what's up?" Like,
Mhm.
it's
When I need to
it's
feel close to them, I usually try to do something to honor them.
yeah, like a
Like, I've
ritual or an offering.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
found that when I feel like I just need to it's not a need to know, but, like, there have been times where sometimes I'll just feel extra alone, and
Mhm.
I'll go to my Nordic altar and I'll light their candles. And it's not because I don't think they're there, but it's almost like I need to be doing, for me, like an active thing of I'm taking the time to sit here with you in your energy so that I can feel your presence more strongly.
Yep.
And it's kind of just activating that sacred space to really open yourself because I think we kind of close ourselves off too
Yeah.
as we're going throughout the day. But I do think part of this conversation too goes into people who take on deities as patrons or start working with deities and they're like, "Oh, I, took them on as a patron and now I just don't feel them anymore." And it's kind of more of a question of are you not feeling them anymore? Like are they not there? Or are you not feeling them because you've gotten so used to their energy? And so
Yep.
I don't think it's a sign that they've left. I think sometimes
No.
it's
Yeah.
just you get so used to their energy. It's like having a pet. You're just
Yeah.
eventually gonna not really notice the clicky clack of their little nails all over the floor.
I do because I try to film content, for fuck's sake, so I'm always like, "Why are you walking so much?" Like,
Stop walking.
why are you so mobile? Like, why are you
Can
so
you just
thirsty?
not move?
Drinking water, stop it. Yeah, it is pretty accurate.
My name is Ariel Willow. I'm a clairvoyant medium and occultist with over a decade of experience of helping others build deeper connections with spirit and themselves and improve or reconnect to their abilities. My services cater towards abilities coaching, deity practice, astrology, and more. Visit www.arielwillow.com to find out more. It's time to step into your power.
To jump off a little bit from this point, working with a deity and having a patron deity, I'm gonna kinda lump them in together to make this point.
Yeah.
Do not treat them like your on-call therapists or like your
No.
little attack dogs that you can hide behind
No.
and act like you're superior and, the most protected thing in the world because you have like such and such deity behind you. Like, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't be that
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
Don't be that. But that makes you look bad. That means you're not ready for deity work. If
Yeah.
that's how you
It
treat
makes you look bad and them look bad because you represent them now.
and the rest of us who actually
Yeah.
do real deity work and not, to
Yeah.
just self-aggrandize ourselves in front of other people. Like, it's
Yeah.
don't do that. It means there's something that you need to work on within yourself if you feel the need to hide behind your deity. It's just
Yeah.
gross. I don't like it.
That's when you ask yourself, am I saying that because I truly believe it, or am I saying it because I just want someone to stand up for me because
Mhm.
nobody else did?
Mhm.
There's so many shadow work prompts in here. I'm
So
so
many.
sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, not sorry. This is part of it, man. Like, this is to do deity work, like, no fucking joke. To do deity work is to be self-aware, is to know thyself. It
Yes.
is part of the
Yes.
journey. It is
Yes.
part of the journey. So, in any case, that kind of lends itself to, like, okay, well, I'm saying to you, like, for the love of all things fucking holy, please do not, like, hang off of your deity, like, on the
Yeah.
pant legs of your deity. So how dedicated do they expect you to be? And, like, what happens if you're not able to keep up with your end of the bargain, so to speak? And again, it depends.
Oh, there's so many ways to approach this because yeah, it does depend.
It does
It
depend. At the end of the
because
day, it really does.
yeah, well, because you can also have multiple lessons that you learn with a deity too.
Mhm.
Like you might have a lesson around discipline that you learn with a deity, or you might have a lesson of, learning how to be more comfortable being alone with the deity. I mean, there's just so many. With Lucifer, he did not tell me that I had to be super dedicated at the beginning, but he did
Mhm.
expect that from me after like a couple months into me working with him. He was like very, very determined all of a sudden out of the blue to have me giving him offerings every single day before I
Mhm.
did anything else. I'm talking about like even going to the bathroom. He was like, get up out of bed, give me an offering right now. And I was like, what is your deal? Like, what is your problem? Like, it was just sudden. One day he was just like, I want an offering every single day before you do anything else. And I was like, damn, this dude demanding us shit. It was really annoying. Like, I remember being during that time, just being so frustrated and just being like, dude, why are you on my case so much? But at the end of it, it was like, I don't know, he didn't even tell me how long it was gonna be, but it was like 30 days or something like that. It was at least a month. And at the end of it, he was like, "Oh, by the way, I'm gonna leave." And I was like, "What the fuck?" I was like, "You just die in a ditch? Like, what the hell?" And so I was like sitting there just dumbfounded. I was like, "What are you talking about? You're gonna leave?" This was before I took him on as a patron. But this experience was actually what made me want to take him on as a patron. Because before he left, he was like, okay, I'm going to leave because our work here is done for now. That was his exact words. And I said, well, you just made me give you all these offerings. Like, what was that about? I was like, oh, because you wanted to know how dedicated I was to you. Did I not do it right? And he was like, no, you did exactly what you needed to do, which was not to show me your dedication to me, but to show yourself the dedication you can have to your practice. And I was
Mhm.
like, oh shit.
Ave
I was
Lucifer.
like, "Ah, God,
Jeez.
okay." So after he left, I was more dedicated to my craft. I actually took pleasure in being able to be consistent for myself because instead of doing it for them, it was a way for me to show that I could be dedicated to something,
Mhm.
even if it made me uncomfortable. And that was
Mhm.
huge for me because I didn't have confidence in my ability to follow through with something. And I needed them to show me that I could because when I felt that I couldn't follow through with something, I could follow through when it meant that I was doing it for them. So if I could do it for them, why couldn't I do it for me?
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm.
So when you think about it that way, how dedicated do they ask you to be or expect you to be?
It's
They
literally
don't
the
ex
same
Yeah.
lesson Artemis
Yeah.
taught me. Same exact lesson in a different way,
Exactly.
but
Mhm.
same exact lesson. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
And
So
then
if
it
you
does depend, right?
Mhm.
It really depends on where you're at in your practice and what lessons you need to learn about yourself and
Yeah.
your practice and where your obstacles, challenges, and even misconceptions are.
Yeah. Yeah. I had the same lesson come up with Odin as well, with reading through a book. But it was different because during that time I had, a couple things happen where I had mental health struggles. And there were a couple days where I was going to bed and I was just like, Odin, I can't do it tonight. I need to just go to bed. And he was like, okay, then go to bed.
Mhm.
And then I would try to get on my phone for TikTok and he's like, up.
Mhm, mhm,
Nope.
mhm.
If you're gonna go to
Oh my
bed, you're gonna go to
god.
bed.
I
And I was like,
forgot about this lesson
"Ah."
until you were
Oh,
talking about it.
it was spicy. And I was like, "Wow, you calling me out on my TikTok addiction." But it was also that was a different dedication. And what that dedication was that if you're going to say that you're gonna do something, then do it,
Yeah.
but don't try to take away your opportunity to take care of yourself to cater to something else. So it was about putting my needs above his request, but only if I was truly doing that.
Mhm.
And
Instead of
that
out of
sucked.
laziness or something like
Yep.
that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because my thing was that I was using TikTok as a way to be lazy and not as a form of self-care. Whereas a form of self-care would be to, instead of reading, go straight to bed because I was tired.
Yeah.
So that sucked too.
Oh,
That sucked. But
that
these are
reminded
things.
me of that when Artemis had me giving her water nonstop.
Oh my god, I
Remember
remember
that?
that.
She had
Yes.
me giving her water nonstop. It
Mhm.
was like fresh water. It could even be just a couple of hours, and she's like, "I want fresh water." And I'm like, "I just,"
Yep.
and she's like, "Mm-mm, I want
Mhm.
fresh water." And I'm like, "What is with the water?" And I was
Yeah.
even telling Ariel to give her water. Like, I
Yes.
was just like, she wants everybody in the world who listens, she wants water. And I realized that when she stopped asking me for the water, she just wanted to see she wanted to see how long I would go until I questioned her.
Yeah. Yeah.
'Cause I followed her blindly. I was like, "You
Mhm.
asked for it?" Like, you like, because but again, I'm in a different stage where the level of dedication that I had committed to her around that point was around the same time that I had done the priestess ritual.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
she was like, "Well, if I ask you to do something, are you gonna just do it, or are you gonna ask me why?" And
Right,
clearly, it
right.
was like, "You could ask me to do anything in the fucking world, and I'll do it." And she was like, "I just wanted to see, like, how long you would go until you really looked me in the face and said, 'Why do you want water?'" Like, it's not that I won't give her water, it's that she wants me to be able to understand her motivations. Like,
Yeah.
that was the lesson for me. It was like, just because she tells me to jump and I say how high, I still need to understand, like, what is the lesson that I will be teaching other people by jumping for her. Do you know what I
Yes.
mean? So
Yes.
that was her lesson through the water, and I was so happy to see that come to an end, though, because it was like, she
It
was
was a lot.
really it was a lot. She was like, "Oh, so demanding," and I was like, "Oh my god, like, just the water, man."
Yeah.
Like,
No,
crazy.
well, that's the thing too, is like, I think and the reason why we're bringing up a bunch of personal examples is because we want to show you like the range that there can be. It
It
is
can be
really
so weird.
dependent. Yeah, it can be so weird and so random, but it is about dedication to self, dedication to your craft, and also dedication to them. How willing are you to be dedicated? Because here's the thing, deity work doesn't ever get easier. And that
Nope.
is a reality that I need y'all to wrap your heads
Mhm.
around.
Mhm.
Deity work does not get easier, it only
Nope.
gets harder because
Nope.
they are going to push you to where they know that you can get to. And if you keep going back to your comfort zone, they will push you out of it
Like, listen,
until
I kind
you
of view it like I view it like Sisyphus, constantly fucking pushing that
yes.
boulder up the hill, my friend.
Yes.
Like, they'll be behind you, cheering you on and being like, "You're pushing up
Mhm.
that fucking look at you
Mhm.
go, baby. Look at you go." And then just as soon as you're in a stride, they're like, "Guess what? Here's a little
Yeah.
stick." Like, and
Yep. Yep.
you're just like, "Why?"
Yes.
But it's
Yes.
because they know what you're capable of. They
Mhm.
know what you're capable of,
And
and they
until
know
they
that you can
test
grow.
you, you
Yeah.
won't know.
Yeah.
Yep. But, like, here's the thing though. It is okay to have anxiety about deity work because deity work is going to bring up anxiety. But here's
Mhm.
the thing. There have been people who have asked us about if you're not able to meet their expectations because let's be realistic. There are people who are like disabled. They have limited mobility. They
Mhm.
are struggling a lot with mental health, like things like that. But there are scenarios where you're not going to be able to meet the demands that you want to or that they've asked from you. But this is something that Alyssa and I try to drive home is that they know that. They know your limitations better than you do. So there have been times where I will think that I'm not capable of following suit through with something, like
Mhm.
showering or whatever. And they'll be like, nope, you're going to get in the shower right now. And I'm just like, no, I do not feel capable of this. I don't want to do it. I have no desire to do it and I don't feel good. And they're like, get in the goddamn shower. And I will. And then I feel better, right?
Yep.
Because
Yep.
it was that self-limiting thing. I was
Mhm.
limiting what I felt that I was able to do, and they knew that I could do it. But there are times when you will be about to push yourself past the point of having any spoons left,
Oh
and
my
they
god,
will
that's so
stop you.
me. Oh,
They will
especially when I
stop
get
you.
into my bad coping or, like, when my, when
Yes.
certain, like, things are really strong and I get into my
Mhm.
intense cleaning, that's, like, a horrible coping
Yes.
mechanism I have, and
Yes.
even Hestia, she's like, "Stop it," and she loves
She's like,
cleaning as an
"Girl."
offering, but, like, I
Yeah.
will literally have them step in front of me and be like,
Mhm.
"Stop
Mhm.
cleaning the counter and go
Yeah.
to bed," and I'm like, "No, I gotta do this, like, I got it," and they're like,
Yeah.
"It's literally 2 a.m., what the fuck are you doing?" And I'm like, "I don't know." Like, it's honestly, they are very aware of our human limitations, they're aware of our
Yes.
situations, they get it. They really
Yeah.
do get it. But does that mean that they're not gonna push your boundaries? Abso-fucking-lutely not,
Oh, they
especially
well,
if they
because they're
know.
gonna test you whether
Yeah,
or not you're gonna keep your boundaries
yeah,
of, "I honestly don't feel good tonight, and I'm checking in with myself,
mhm,
and I genuinely just don't feel good enough to do this. Can we
yep,
do it a different night?" That's okay to say to a deity.
perfect,
Like,
perfect,
if you are not feeling mentally well, like, you are depresso espresso, like,
mhm,
2 times, right? You have 2 shots of depresso espresso and you're, like, really feeling it, and you're just not having a good time, and they're asking you to do this elaborate ritual and you do not have the spoons, and you know that if you do it,
you'll be
you
worse
follow
off.
through yeah, you'll be
Yep,
worse off. It is something where it takes self-awareness to know whether or not you are not doing it because you didn't manage time well. That's an honest thing to ask yourself.
yep,
Why did I end up in this position? Did I manage my time well? Did
mhm.
I get what I genuinely needed to get done, or did I put extra
Ooh,
things in my schedule in order to
I
avoid this?
I was just about to
Which
say, did you
oh,
overcommit?
which
I'm
is a
bad for
hard
that.
same,
Oof,
same. Because 'cause I'll be like, "Oh, I'm getting all this stuff done," and then all of a sudden at the end of the night, I'm just like, "Shit."
crash. Yeah,
Yep, yep. So it's a lesson in self-discernment of, did I overcommit? Did I, leave enough time to get this done? And it's about following through with things, but it's also about understanding when you genuinely just can't do something. Like
mhm,
maybe you did plan to do it and you did manage your time well, but you still didn't have enough time at the end of the day or you didn't have enough energy. And that is okay. They're going to understand. If it's a genuine mistake or if it is a genuine situation where
yeah,
you just
they'll
don't feel good,
understand.
they will understand. They're not going to be upset with you. They aren't going to be upset with you. But it is about self-awareness. A huge lesson in that is self-awareness, which sucks. I'm going to say that a lot in this episode because a lot of stuff sucks. Don't get me wrong, I love my deities. I really do. But sometimes I'm just like, why am I doing
I
this?
just want to make it, I want to make it so clear why I say this all the time. Like, I never shut up about boundaries, and I never will.
Yes.
It's so
Yes.
important to be upfront. Like, oh my God, before you even get into an agreement with a deity to do
Oh,
deity work,
so
you need
important.
to lay all your cards on the table. Pun absolutely the fuck intended.
Mhm.
Lay all your cards on the table. Tell, like, what are your expectations? What are their expectations? What are your boundaries? And what are their boundaries? You need to have this conversation so that you are never put in a place of detriment where you feel like, oh, I am stuck in this position where they've overstepped a boundary. Well, did they
Yeah.
overstep a boundary because you didn't tell them what it was, or
Yeah.
because you never had that conversation with them? Like, is this really them or is this you? Like, is this
Yeah.
somewhere where you can improve by stepping up and saying, this is a boundary for me? And that's why, like, I cannot understand the concept of like figuring out that it's a deity, right? That is coming forward for someone and then jumping into agreeing to work with them and not having this fundamental, foundational conversation with them. It's something so basic. I do it with friendships. I do this with friendships where I'm like, okay, like, we're besties. What are your expectations? Like, what is it that's you really value in a friendship? And same with romantic, same with professional businesses or professional relationships. What are your expectations? What are your boundaries? What are like no-goes? These are all very basic foundational things that you need to have that conversation with the deity. And that's why it's so important to have a strong sense and line of communication.
Mhm. And you know who's great at pushing boundaries? Infernals.
They're the
And
best at it.
nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to talk about it, but they are amazing at that. I had a situation with
Mhm.
Lucifer where I set a clear boundary with him and he crossed it
Mhm.
and I got super mad with him and we had a conversation and I was like, "Why did you cross that boundary?" And he was like, "Why didn't you enforce it?" And I
Yep.
was like, "Fuck."
It's what so he's I swear to God, he has the best fucking lessons,
He's so
Lucifer does.
smart though, and that's why I hate it
He's
so
so
much.
smart.
Because 'cause I'm just like,
It's
"Why
like
do you
cunning.
do
They're
this?"
so cunning. I don't
Yes,
know what it
yes.
is with the
Because
infernals. They
right
just
when I
go
think
about
I've
things
nailed it
differently.
and I have him, and I'm just like, "You
Yep.
did something wrong," he's just like, "Nope, you didn't get the lesson." And I was like,
Yep.
"Fuck."
They're so
God,
good for
man.
this. Like, it's crazy how they can go, but they can be so roundabout, man. It's wild. But like, if you are having you know what? I'm gonna focus on infernals here for a second. So
Yeah.
the infernal pantheon
Oh,
or
you
the
need
demonic
to.
divine, whatever you want to call them,
Because a lot of people are getting into
they
working with them, which they're amazing, but there's a lot we
which
have
they're
to say.
great.
We have to
There's a
say a
lot we
lot
have to
about
say. But by the way,
them.
we're both demonolators. So we
Yes,
we
yes,
both worship and work with demons.
yes.
So it's a part of our practice. It's a part of the conversation around deity work. But this is infernals are unique, okay? They really
Yes,
are.
yes.
They're just different in the sense that, like, and Ariel can speak to working with the Norse pantheon and I can speak working with the Hellenic pantheon.
Mhm.
It's wildly fucking different.
Oh, it's
It's
so
wildly
different.
different.
It is so different.
Infernals push the boundaries like you wouldn't believe. Because here's the
Mhm.
thing, it's one thing to identify a boundary, it's another to communicate it, and it's even another to enforce it.
Yes,
And
yes,
these
and
are
they
all
will
things they
try
will
you
teach
on
you,
all 3 fronts
all three. And you think you got it figured
continuously.
out, they'll
Yep,
keep pushing, they'll keep
yep,
pushing.
yep.
And so it's on you, man. Like like even just with a deity work in general, it takes work, but with infernals in particular, you need to be aware that you are getting involved with entities that literally will break you into millions of pieces and rebuild you because you're
Mhm,
you're you're going to be stronger when you're rebuilt, but it's going to suck. It's going to
mhm,
fucking suck. They're going to make you question what you think you know, what you understand, who you think you are, what it even means to know who you are. Like
Yeah.
it, the
What it means to be
deep
alive, like, it will
what it
make you
means like to
question
be
everything.
human. Like
Yeah.
it's wild the direction that they take and the way that they teach their lessons is and I've talked about this before that I don't like the idea of beginner deities,
I was
and I can
just about to go there. Same
Oh,
brain,
were
man.
you?
Same brain.
So we have
Yeah,
the
no,
same fucking
because
brain.
yes, I know, we do this all the time, it's great.
It happens all the
No,
time.
I was just about I was just about to go there because the thing is okay, and we're gonna get deep here. Are you ready? Okay,
Fucking
let's dive.
I'm deep in the
TikTok
yeah.
TikTok We're so excited about this conversation, everybody. TikTok, I love it, but it makes infernals look so approachable, and
Yeah,
I'm guilty of this too.
I am too.
I'm putting myself on the stand here. I am
Same.
guilty of this too because I don't want anybody to approach spirit thinking that they can't. But the problem is that I think I've made it sound like they're much more approachable for everyone than they are. And it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that nobody can work with them. I'm not trying to gatekeep infernals at all. I don't think they should be gatekept. However, I do think that if you are going into working with them, it's not because, oh, you saw someone have a really sweet interaction with Lucifer online. It's not because, oh, someone like had Leviathan helping them with baneful magic. Like it should not be that. It should be because you are ready to do the fucking work and you
I'm
are
laughing
ready
because 'cause we're
to
both bad for that.
absolutely yeah, yeah, and that's the
'Cause
thing, like, I'm calling myself out here,
me
like,
too.
I do it all
Because
the
the way we
time.
communicate about them, we
Yeah.
make them sound well,
Well, because
because
they're so demonized. That's
they
the thing. They're
that's the
okay.
thing, they're so demonized. It's
They're
like
so demonized because okay, we went from here's the issue. We went in society from demons are bad, demons are evil, cursed demon, blah, 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 send them back to hell, to people being like, no, actually, they're really beneficial to work with. And then getting to this place of like, oh my God, look what Lucifer did for me today. He helped
Mhm.
me make a latte. And then,
Look
like,
at Lizzie.
yeah. And then, oh, Alyssa.
I had to do it.
Oh, I have visceral reactions to that nickname. Um,
Same.
Ugh, okay. I'm so sorry.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm not.
Um, she is chaos.
I
Um,
am
I
chaos
am
incarnate.
chaos. So there is these sections, like these phases we went through with infernals, and there's a part of me that is so excited about people wanting to work with infernals and being more open to learning the lessons that they have for us. But there is this growing frustration that I have with seeing people assume and treat them as though they are just like other deities. And
There's
like Alyssa said, like we're both guilty of this. We're both
yeah.
guilty of this because we want people to accept them as part of the swath of
Yeah.
like an entities that you can work with, but they are not for everyone.
They are not.
Not everyone is going to like working with infernals, and not everyone is going to benefit from
Yeah.
working with
Oh,
infernals.
100%.
And that is a tough pill to swallow because
It
like
is.
I to be honest, you want to hear something? I
Let's
don't know
do
if
it.
I could ever work with Kemetic gods and goddesses. I
Mm,
don't think I could. I don't think I could work with Hellenic gods and goddesses because I don't think they're a good fit for me. And
yep.
part of being a deity practitioner
Is
is
knowing.
knowing
Yep.
who is a good fit for you and who isn't, and where this goes back to dedication of how
Yep.
much are you able to dedicate to them and are you able to follow through. This is one reason why I haven't taken Medusa on. I love Medusa. She is one
Mhm.
of my favorite goddesses and I will always have a shrine for her, but
Mhm.
I don't think that I would be able to take her on as a patron or work with her long term because I'm not able to dedicate the time and attention that I know that she would want.
Yep.
And that is a powerful thing to learn because
It's
you
so
can learn
powerful, and I'm so
it.
fucking proud of you. Ugh,
It is so important to know
so
that
important.
though. And so
I
many
can't
people,
work with the Roman pantheon. I can't.
yeah,
I
yeah,
just don't connect well with them. You know, like you were sharing about like, pantheons that you just don't think would fit for you. And same for me. There's pantheons I just
yeah,
don't think. I have worked with a couple of deities from the Kemetic pantheon, but the Kemetic pantheon as a whole, I just do not connect with in the same way. And so
yeah,
it just isn't the right fit. I've had, it's really hard though, because I've had two experiences with two particular Kemetic deities that literally changed my life.
yeah.
And
Well, you can appreciate what they can offer you with while
yes,
knowing that you can't work with them long term.
I
And
cannot
that's
provide them
yeah,
the level of attention and dedication the way
yeah,
I can and am willing to with the
yeah,
Hellenic and Infernal Pantheon. I just can't. And
yeah.
I get that and they get that. So it's like oh man, it's wild.
You know what just came up too?
Mm,
What I just thought of is, and I'm guilty of this too. I'm guilty of this too. This is why I'm bringing this up because I hate that this episode is just me calling me myself out all the
I
time.
feel the same. I'm like, God, I
Um,
suck.
we're all in the sucky boat together. We're all in the Titanic. We're all going down. Um, so I okay, as someone who was previously Christian, you know where I'm going with this.
I know
As
exactly
someone,
where you're going.
yep, and it
Mhm.
sucks.
Mhm.
I I'm doing it. Lucifer was like, "Just spit it out, Ariel." When I first had Lucifer come through for me, I was scared of him. I was scared of him
Mhm.
because I had only had experience with angels and like one Hellenic deity, and that was it. Like very, very limited experience with anything outside of angels. So I was still working through my, religious trauma. But one reason why the infernal pantheon appealed to me so much was because I wanted to go completely opposite of the church. And in the beginning, I don't know that I can say with certainty that that wasn't my driving reason for working with them. And I hate
Mm.
that. I hate admitting that because I wish that it was different. But I do think that we do see this pattern of people who have religious trauma wanting to work with infernals. And I don't think that's a bad thing, but I do think that there is an importance in being honest with yourself as to why. Because if you don't recognize why, that is going to hold you back because you're always going to be trying to prove something to other people by working with them instead of actually doing the work on yourself.
Oh, I just got
And
something
that's
too to add
oh,
to
it
that.
sucks. So
I got something
until
to
I
add to that.
recognized that,
Oof.
I didn't actually make the progress that I needed to with him because I needed to recognize why I was working with him. And
Mhm.
that wasn't it's important. It really is.
Oof, man. You know what? So this is the thing with infernals. I'm telling you that
They get you. They
there's
get
so
you.
much around them, and like, yeah, I,
I
I'm so
know. I
uncomfortable
know.
saying this, but I'm gonna
I'm
say it
so
anyway.
uncomfortable
I'm
right now.
so
I'm
sweaty.
sweating. Yeah.
I just said sweaty. It's so damp. The reason
Oh,
why I'm uncomfortable is because I spend so much oh, fuck. It's because it's because
I know.
Ariel and I care so fucking much about making sure that things around spirituality are approachable to people and whatever.
Yes.
Okay, but I know we've given a ton of disclaimers and I'm just beating around the bush because I'm nervous. I know. So Leviathan, he's like,
I
spread
know.
it out. Yeah. So my here, listen, honesty is the best policy. So
I can
I
hear him sighing in the background. He's just like, Alyssa.
I beg of you. I beg I beg of you, if you are in the process of deconstructing your religious trauma, whether it's from Christianity or a different
Yes.
religion, okay? Doesn't matter what it is.
Yes.
Please figure your shit out before you go
Yes.
running to Lucifer Morningstar, some other deity,
Yes.
and expecting them to fix it for you, or
Mhm.
bringing along your predispositions to whatever you learned in that religion and forcing it upon the pagan community.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do not do
It
that.
yes. It took me 8 years. No, actually 9. It took me 9 years, if not 10. I think
A
it was
lot of
about
work.
9.
It's
It
hard
took me
work.
9 years from leaving the church to working with infernals.
Mhm.
And most people are jumping from going from the church to a month later working with Lucifer.
I
And
oof.
I'm not going to say that you shouldn't do it, but just know that there is a lot of deconstruction that happens in the beginning
Mhm.
that will prevent you from having the kind of connection you want with your deities if you are not willing to look them in the face and be honest with yourself of where they're coming from and why. And
In
that can be really
addition,
hard.
a lot of the deities that are open to people, that are part of open pantheons, are polytheistic in nature. So,
Yes.
one of the most common questions that I get and that I see is, can I worship this deity and this one? Fucking yes. It's in the title, polytheism, not monotheism. It is not a religion or any forces you to accept one God as almighty. And even just that very basic level of deconstructing from moving
Oh.
away from this concept that it has to be one or even that gets brought over into the
Oh
pagan
my
community, and it
oh my god.
seeps in to the questions that we have around deity work, and it makes it really difficult to have these conversations.
Yes. I'm so sorry. As you were saying that, a just huge strike of lightning and really loud thunder.
Ooh, hey Zeus, how you doing?
Yeah, I was like, "Daddy says?" No, I'm just kidding.
Patty Zeus approves of this
Yeah.
message. As much as I'm like, please don't do that, I also
Yeah,
recognize that it's a difficult process and that it's going to take
it
time.
is.
Just be honest with yourself along the way, and try not to take a lot of the predispositions that come with that religious trauma and force it upon the conversations around deity work. Okay?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
the problem that I have is people who will come, who won't finish the deconstruction process from religion, come into the pagan community, talk about deity work with other practitioners, and force
yeah,
the rhetoric and narratives that are from that previous religion onto pagan religions. I fucking
yeah,
hate that. I
yeah.
fucking hate it. And I know it's hard work. I get it. But again, that's part of deity work. You need to be doing the work on yourself.
Mhm.
You cannot work with the
It's
deity and
unavoidable.
escape working with yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Well, because 'cause you're the practice.
You are
You
the
are your
practice.
practice.
You are the
And if you
practice.
are yeah, yeah, and that is the thing that will change. Your practice will change because you will change. It's not
Yeah.
the other way around. Your practice doesn't change without you changing.
Yeah.
So, and if you want growth, you have to change. It is
And
unavoidable.
it's so uncomfortable to say this because
It
there's
is.
so much discomfort that comes around, and there's so much pain and
It is.
confusion that comes with leaving religions like Christianity and searching
Yeah.
for a new connection with divinity and searching for a place to call home and a place to grow and to feel accepted and loved and welcomed. It is a hard journey that you guys go through. I didn't go through it, but I hear a lot about it. And I feel really bad saying that, but again, it's that hard truth that if you're going to be going from one to the next, there's a lot of that self-reflection that comes in along the way. And so again, full circle back to infernals, like
Yeah.
you're going to have a
Yeah.
bad time if you think that they're going to coddle you the entire way.
Yeah, they're not going to. They're not
No.
going to. They can be like
Oh,
they
they
can
can
be
be great.
sweet.
They can be amazing. So
The
amazing.
experiences that I've had with Astaroth and Lucifer have been incredibly loving and caring and kind, but they have also been some of the most difficult lessons that I have had to learn, and it's been
Like
extremely uncomfortable.
absolutely the same thing with Leviathan and some of the
Mhm.
other demons that I don't really talk too much about publicly,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
but
yeah.
Leviathan in particular, who I'm very vocal about, and I share a lot about him. I make him out to seem so much more like, I don't know, jovial And I don't know. I
Yeah.
I I show a side of him that is very unique to where I'm at in my practice and what we've
Yeah.
already built together, but I can promise you it wasn't like that at the beginning.
No, he was very serious in the
He
beginning.
was so fucking stoic and
He was
so
very
serious
stoic.
because I had to get
Yes.
over my own shit. Like,
Yeah.
there were things I needed to learn. Like, if you're working on that deconstruction process, one of the really difficult things
Ooh, I
that's well,
remember one
it's
of
even just not just with
Yep.
people who are deconstructing, but also just in general, right? Of people not feeling good enough. With all that being said, if you have anxiety around working with a deity, that's actually normal, like to have
Oh,
anxiety, to
yeah.
not really know what to expect. And
Yeah.
that's
Well,
why I
because you
say
wanna do a good job. You
exactly,
wanna go do
you wanna do
yeah.
a good job. And that's why I say put all your cards on the table. So
Yes.
be upfront at the beginning. But there's a but. If you have anxiety around taking on a patron because you don't have a clear mode of communication with them, do not work with the deity and do not take
Yeah.
on a patron.
Yeah.
And that's because the most important thing that you could possibly have in deity work is a clear, solid line of
Yes.
communication.
Yes, and I hate to say that because it makes it
It
sound like we
sucks.
are gatekeeping deity work, and we're
I know.
not. The reason why we're saying this is because you have to have a clear mode of communication because listen, Alyssa and I offer sessions where we are giving you messages from deities, but if that is your mode for communicating with your deity for deity work, you should not be
No.
doing deity work
No.
yet. And it doesn't mean that you can't ever do deity work,
No, it's
but
not
that
a not
you
everything.
yeah, you need to figure out your modality of communication with them first,
Mhm.
whether it's a pendulum or dowsing rods or dice or coins or cards or, scrying or, looking up at the sky and yelling at the clouds and looking at symbols in the clouds. I don't give a fuck how you talk to them. Like whatever works for you, but have a modality of communication that you can use because you need to have clear communication with them. You
Yep.
have to have a way to communicate. So have that set up. And if you have anxiety because you don't, set it up. Work on that first,
Yes.
right? Because
Yes.
if the deity wants to work with you, they will. They will wait
Oh, of
until
course.
you have a modality of
Time doesn't
communication.
matter to them.
Yeah, they don't give a fuck.
They don't
They'll
give a
wait,
shit.
but there also are times that deities will come through for you and
Mm.
they will come through to help you with something and then you figure it out on your own, so they don't need to help you with it anymore. So they'll just
Mhm.
leave. There
Mhm.
are situations like that. But for the most part, if they're wanting to help you with something like, "Oh, I'm coming through to, help you with, I don't know, trauma or something." And you're like, "Oh, yes, but I don't know how to communicate with you." That's okay. Just focus on building a established communication thing and then go from there.
Mhm.
But never take on a patron. And
No, my
here okay,
gosh.
without communication. But here's the thing though. If your anxiety about taking them on as a patron is connected to you feeling as though you might not be able to live up to what they expect from you,
Mhm.
do what they expect from you as a patron before you take them on as a patron to
Yeah.
see if you can follow through with it.
Yeah.
You can do that.
Yeah.
You
Of
can
course
do
you
that.
can. Yeah.
You don't have to wait until they are your patron to start doing that stuff.
Mhm.
You can ask them, if I were to take you on as a patron, what would you expect from me?
Oh my god, I did that to Hermes for months.
Yeah, and that is
It took
okay.
me
And to be
months.
honest, if I was a deity, I would respect you more for wanting to show me that you could follow through with that before you make that agreement. Because I rather not have that an agreement that we break.
Mhm.
I want to be able to have it be something where you're able to follow through. So
Yeah.
if you're able to say, "Hey, I'm willing to just see if I can follow through with your requests before even getting into this." I'm like, "Sick. Yeah, let's do
Mhm.
it." Fuck
Yeah.
yeah. You
Absolutely,
know?
absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that. The point that we're really trying to drive home, though, is if you don't have a clear mode of communication and that
Mhm.
is the thing that's holding you back from having a patron or starting deity work, then please overcome that first
Yeah.
before jumping into
Yeah.
anything. It makes no sense to enter into something that is predicated on communication without
Yes.
a mode of communication. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
And you should not ever use a practitioner as your speakerphone, as your mediator. You need to be able to have that conversation with the deity one to one. That's how you form your personal gnosis. That's how you form your unique connection with them. And so start with that first. And then the anxieties that you're having, communicate that with your deity using whatever mode is most comfortable with you and let them help guide you through what those anxieties are. And also look within. Where is the source of your anxiety coming from? Is it anxiety because you have commitment issues? Is it anxiety because you don't feel worthy enough? Is it like, where does the anxiety stem from? Is it a you anxiety? Is it a them? Is it something else? And you work through that, because like we've been saying this whole time, deity work is working on yourself.
Yes, I totally agree. And I think it's it's a good segue into the next part, which is it necessary to have an objective to deity work, or can you just, want to build that relationship with that deity? And I would say no. Like, you don't really have to have a specific reason for wanting to work with a deity. However, I do have to say that the times the times that I have tried to work with deities just because I've wanted to have never worked out well for me.
Mhm.
They've never worked out well because you're just there for a good time and not a long time. Like, it really just comes down to that.
Yeah.
You're there because you might respect them, or you might think they're cool, and you just want to work with them because you're just like, oh, well, so many other people have these cool experiences. Or like, maybe you want to work with Hermes because like he brings this person a lot of money. I want to work with a deity like that. Like, it it is, if I'm going to be honest, the best connections that I have had with deities are deities that come to me
Yep.
because they know what I need
Yep.
better than I do. And
Mhm.
it's not to say that you can't call in
God,
deities
that's the
and
same
ask
with
them to,
me.
yeah, like, it's not
Yeah.
that you can't call them in and work with them for a little bit and see
Mhm.
how you feel. And there are people who do that
Yeah.
and build a connection with them, take them on as patrons and everything, just because they felt drawn to them. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
But I know that when I have had deities come forward for me, I have the most profound experiences because they, one, sometimes are not deities that I would have ever felt worthy of working with, or they are deities that I would have never expected to click with so much.
Mhm.
And
Isn't
when
that
I
the funny
started,
thing when that happens?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, and that makes a huge difference because if you're not feeling this connection with a deity, like, you really
Mm, you
know,
do.
it's this, I don't know how to explain it, because it's kind of like when you have, it's kind of like when I met Alyssa. Like, there was just
Mm.
this clicking moment. Like,
Yep.
it was just like, yeah, yeah,
It's hard,
we're
it's,
friends
like,
now.
immediate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. And it just built from there. But when you want to build a relationship with someone, like, let's say that you, like, see, oh, I hate using this example, but, like, this is the one that comes to mind. If you see someone online and you're just like, "Wow, they're so cool." And you get to talking to them and, like, the conversation falls flat and, like, it just, oh, it's so awkward. But, like, you're trying so hard to build this connection with this person because you want to be in connection with them because you think they're cool, or you think that you'll have opportunities through them or something. It's always going to feel awkward because you're going in with an expectation
Mhm.
instead of just wanting to experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would agree with well, I'm a little bit more forward, I think, when it comes to answering this question, in the sense that I actually do think it's necessary to have an objective to be considered deity work as we define and understand it today. And the reason for that is because without it, it is deity worship, or it is hanging out. Otherwise,
Yeah,
there is no reason or
that's a
purpose
good
around it.
point. That is something that I wanted to talk about too, was
Yeah.
people, like, having deities as their best friends, and I'm so sorry to be this person, I hate this. I hate this.
It's so
Deities.
uncomfy.
Oh, it's so uncomfy. And I don't say this to try to hurt anybody's feelings, okay? But deities are not your best friends. Deities are not your best friends. They can teach you about friendship. They
Oh,
can
yeah.
help you build friendships.
Oh, they
They
can
can
have
help you,
opinions on friendships.
yeah, and they can help you build community,
Yep.
but they are not your best friends. They're your teacher.
That
They're your teacher.
bingo.
You can be friendly with a teacher.
Yeah.
You can have a close connection with a teacher in the sense that you just really learn really well from them because
Mhm.
they're just able to speak in a way or communicate something in a way that you really understand, but they are not your friend just because they're teaching you something. And
Mhm.
that's a hard one for me to realize
That's a
too,
hard
is like
one.
it's
That's
a
a
hard
hard
one
one.
because I feel very close to them. As
Yep.
humans, we want to build connection. So
Yeah.
it's not bad for you to want to be friends with them. But you also have to realize that being friendly with a deity and quote unquote friends with a deity is much different
Yeah.
than being friends with a person
Oh, it's
because
yeah. Mhm.
there is an undercurrent of expectation.
Mhm. Mhm.
Whereas with a friend, you can just spend time and enjoy their company.
Now
But
that's not
there's
to
always
say yeah, sorry.
no, no, go ahead, go ahead.
That's not to say that in deity work you can't feel like friends though. Like
Mm,
it's just
mhm,
I don't know
mhm.
how, it's kind of hard to
It
explain, but
is
like
hard, yeah.
it's hard to explain because we're trying to like keep in mind that all right, so
We're
let's
trying to be honest about things and realistic with you all without seeming as though you can't have fun
yeah,
with deity
because it
work.
can be so much fun too.
It can be so
And
much fun, and it can
dude, I
also
play
be
fucking video games with some of mine, and that's
yeah.
a thing I do with
Yeah.
friends, but that's
Or like the live stream that we had with Hermes. Like there
yeah,
that those
so
can
much
be
fun.
times where you're having a good time while also realizing that they are part of your human experience,
Yes. Yes.
right? They're helping you to really have a human experience on a deeper level. But
There's literally an epithet of Hermes that means friend. Hermes,
yeah.
friend, the friendly. And
Yeah.
that's but the way we understand friend, the dynamic of a relationship with a
Yes.
friend doesn't apply in a deity work situation in the way
Yes.
we identify and define it and understand it today, where it's
Agreed.
objective based, where you are wanting guidance, mentorship, teaching.
Mhm.
You want them to help you in some form or fashion. It's just a different dynamic. And so that's what we're trying to explain. But that doesn't mean that you
Yeah.
can't have experiences with them that is like having a friend because it really is like that. It can be like
Right.
that.
Right.
Not every
Right.
deity is like that, but Hermes is one of the most well known because he's so fucking friendly. He's so
Yeah.
friendly and people love
Well,
him.
yeah, and I think people are gonna get confused with because I know for a fact there are going to be people who listen to this and they're like, "Yeah, but I've had times where, like, I've been crying," and they're, like, very sympathetic, and they're,
Yep.
like, rubbing my shoulders,
I
being like,
know.
"Everything's gonna
I
be
know.
okay," and things like that, and it's not to say that that is not a valid
Yeah.
experience because it
Yeah,
is a valid experience.
it is.
I've had those experiences too.
Same.
However, there's a difference between them having empathy for us and sympathy and being able to express that they are sympathetic to where what we're feeling and what we're going through and having a friendship with them.
Yeah.
Does that make
I
sense?
I just
Like,
I don't view them, look at them, or treat them the same way I would a friend because the
yeah.
expectations of a friendship is different than the expectations in a
Well,
mentorship
because
or a
yes,
teaching situation
because in a friendship, what you're giving emotionally goes both ways.
in a
Does that
lot of
make
ways.
sense?
It's just a really difficult thing to try to explain because it's like
Yes.
until you've experienced deity work as again, as we identified, define, and understand it today,
Mhm.
if until you experience it and then have friendly experiences within it, it's really hard to like try to describe it's just a very different
It's
dynamic.
just different. Yeah.
But also there's a lot of people who say I am best friends with my like I would describe myself as being friendly, like friend like with all of my patrons, but I would never describe
Yeah.
them as a
Yeah.
friend because that's
Yeah.
reductive. It's
Yeah.
reductive and not accurate to the kind of relationship that has been established. Does that
Right.
make sense? I hope that makes
Yes.
sense.
It makes
So,
sense to me, but I also like basically share a brain with you. So
yeah, I know.
I don't know if that's
Uh,
helpful.
it's
Let us know if that makes sense.
yeah, let us know if that makes sense. But, like, we are by no means saying you can't have friendly
Yeah, yeah. We
experience,
don't
like,
want to
that's not what we're saying.
invalidate those experiences. We
No,
just
because
want to
we
clarify that
too.
it's different than human friendships.
Bingo. That's what yeah, that's what we're driving home.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's at the end of the day, it kind of comes full circle to that communication aspect. Like, do you have a mode of communication that is solid, and do you have a way to have that communication with them to be able to build a relationship and from there determine if you are ready to enter into a working relationship. And that is why I always say to start with worship first, because worship
Yeah.
requires fucking nothing. You can start
Yeah.
worshiping whoever the fuck you want right now. And it requires no agreement from the deity or no like expectations. There's no boundaries. There's nothing. Like just go for it, whatever.
Yeah.
That is a way for you to give yourself the time to get to know them, to research them, to feel their energy, see if you're going to vibe, communicate with them a little bit from there, and then explore if a working relationship is for you. And that's why I say, why I answer the question, is it necessary to have an objective to deity work? Yes. In my
Yeah.
opinion, yes. That is what differentiates worship to work, in my opinion, as we define and understand it today. Are you new to witchcraft or wanting to improve your practice? Then my Patreon is for you. My name is Alyssa. I am a practitioner with over 10 years of experience, and I want to help you to take your practice to the next level. Within my Patreon, you'll find information on the history of witchcraft, the science of magic, exercises for strengthening your clair abilities, spellcrafting and how-tos, baneful magic, and so much more. Join today via patreon.com/LaRusaMystic. Let me help you unlock your magic.
The next question is a hard one. I'm going to just buckle up. Pucker your buttholes.
It's hard because we both have had experiences where this has happened. And it's
Yes.
hard because a lot of people have had experiences where this happened.
And this is why they are not your friends. This is why it's really important to make that distinction.
Yep.
Okay? Because teachers are people that eventually you don't need anymore because they've already taught you what you need to know from them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? This is what we're going with. Is there something that would make a deity leave you? Yes. There is. There's a couple things actually. Okay, we'll go with the more insidious ones.
Mm-hmm.
If you get into deity work and you are lazy about it, like you just want them to make things happen for you, you want to be able to take on a patron because they're going to bring you money and that's it. You don't want to give anything
Or to look
to them.
cool, or to seem cool, or
if the reason why you're taking them on in deity work or as a patron is to make you look better, they will leave.
If it's
Or
insincere.
or they'll just make your life hell.
Or they will do that too. Yep.
Yeah, they can do that too.
Yeah, because you're gonna like that's really disrespectful. But
yeah. So anything that would be like in just malicious, thinking that you can get away with it because like, oh well, it's just a deity. They're gonna be fine. No, you are disrespecting a god. Like you are literally taking a belief and saying this is something that I'm going to make work for me and that is their purpose. And you can do that with your practice because it is your practice and it's yours, but you shouldn't do that with deities.
No.
You
They
shouldn't do
have
that with
cultural
deities.
context. They have historic context, modern context. Don't be one of those people.
The other reasons though can be not out of malicious intent. Sometimes you will have deities be with you for a very long time. I'll use Archangel Gabriel, for example. He was with me for almost a decade and he was there for a very long time. And I really did feel like he was like one of my friends. Like it was
He's
very
very friendly.
He's so friendly.
He's friendly.
But But when he left, I also didn't feel like I was losing a friend. That's
Yeah.
the thing.
Yeah.
And that's why I really make that distinction. But ultimately, when he left, I was sad because you really do build a connection with that deity, and so when they leave, it is hard.
Yeah.
But you also have to have a realization that one, you can call on them whenever you want. Like
Yep.
you can always just say, "Hey, I'm really missing you. I'm just going to light a candle for you." You
Yeah.
know? Like calling in
Yeah.
their energy if you just need them in. So they're
Yeah.
not ever really really gone. But you also it's also a lesson one in trust because
Yeah.
you have to trust that there's a reason for it, and a lesson also in self-soothing,
Mm-hmm.
and that is a really tough lesson to learn, and it's an
Yep.
uncomfortable one too,
Yep.
because they will help us to work through things in our lives, but they will not do it for us.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's really important to be able to learn the lesson of self-soothing and being able to say, "Yes, this is happening and there's a reason for it, even though I might not really recognize it yet." But sometimes, like with Lucifer, he left, there was kind of no preparation for it at all. He was just like, "Hey, we're done working with each other for now. Bye." And I was like, "What the fuck?" And I was like I was really bummed out for like 2 days. But I also needed to have him gone to realize that I wanted to take him on as a patron.
Mm-hmm.
And it was
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah. That was a big,
I don't
that was a huge
I
transformation.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
you 'cause you saw it.
I
You saw
did.
it.
I sure
Like,
fucking did.
yep, she
Yep.
she saw it, like, there
That was
was
huge. Yeah.
mhm, and it was this huge shift for me where I went from like, "Oh, yeah, Lucifer is here all the time," to like, "Oh my god, I didn't realize how big of an impact he had on my life until he left."
Yep.
And I was like, "I need to have him in my life forever."
Now with that
So
being said, not every time a deity leaves would they come back
right,
in that
right,
way, right?
right.
Sometimes working
And
with
that's where
deities,
that trust has to come in.
yes, sometimes working with the deities is meant to be a one-off thing, a short
Mhm.
time thing and never again, or short time and then coming back later, or a
Yeah.
long time and then never again, or and then like it could be a variety of all these things. And so it again, it depends because
It
like in
depends.
the case of Ariel, when Lucifer left and then she wanted to take him on as a patron after that, they had that connection and reconnected to have that conversation and move forward from there. And that is one way something like that could play out. Another way, I'll use my example, is not that way. I
Yeah.
worked with Ampu for a long time as Anubis for a little over a year during a really like transformative, tumultuous time where I was diving really hard into shadow work. And he was helping me a lot with that. And
He was amazing helping you through that. He was incredible.
I know. I love him so much. And he
He's
has a special
incredible.
place in my heart for
Mhm.
what he taught me, how he taught me. Um, he taught me a lot of different things and showed me sides of myself that I didn't know were there. It was a very profound, beautiful working relationship. And when things came to an end, it was rather abrupt because I
Yeah.
think I didn't think he'd actually leave. I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, like he told me this is going to be not a long-term thing." And I was like, "Yeah, okay, that's fine, whatever." But like I don't think I really realized that was he wasn't lying. Like he was like, "This is not going to be a long-term thing." And I was like, "Oh." I remember jokingly having this conversation with Ariel. I was like, "Maybe I'll ask him to be my patron. What do you think he'd say?" And
Yeah.
I turned around and I was like, "Do you wanna be my patron?" He's like, "No." I was like, "Okay,
He's
fine."
like, "No, I'm almost at the end of my shift. I'm not
Like,
gonna
he's
stay
like,
overtime."
"No, I'm fucking going home, bitch." Like, I
I'm
it
busy.
like, super funny, but also ouch, but, like, also I
Yeah.
get it because he was very honest and I was very honest at the upfront, but, like, after a year in,
Yeah.
I obviously grew to
Yeah.
really adore him and a connection was built. I think what I did was I didn't actually think it would be so abrupt, the end. Like, I
Yeah.
almost felt like it would be like a soft
They do
fizzle.
it like they don't always give you a lot
No.
of notice.
It was for me, it
They're
was what,
they
2 days or 3 days? It was
Yeah,
3 days.
listen, they don't give you the 2-week notice.
No.
Lucifer gave me 1 day. He was like, "Oh, by the way, I'm leaving tomorrow." And I was like,
Mhm.
"I'm sorry, what?" I thought he was joking.
No, is it right though? Like,
I thought he
sometimes you're
was
like, "Ah, you're not
joking.
serious." Like,
I literally said that. I was like, don't that's a terrible joke." And he was like, "It's not a joke. I'm gonna leave the day after tomorrow." And I was
yeah.
like,
What the
"You
hell?
can't be serious." And he was serious.
Are you for serious? Yeah, he gave me like 3
Are
days.
you
He's
for
like,
real?
"We're done on Saturday." And I was like,
Yeah.
"What? We're wait, what? Like, what?" And I remember, oh, dude, it was so hard. It was like
Oh,
taking down the
yeah.
altar. Oh my God, that hurt. Like, it's tough. It
Yeah.
hurts. It sucks, but it
Yeah.
came to an end when it was meant to. And even though I will I don't think I'm actually ever gonna work with him again, to be honest with you. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
he was meant to be there at the time he was, and that was that. I can still love and be excited for him showing up for other people, and, like, he's a
Ugh,
patron for one of
I'm
my
getting
best friends.
emotional. That's so sad.
Oh, I love him. He's a patron for one of my best friends, and I sent
Yeah.
my friend a little piece of my altar that I had for him to her, and that was healing for me. Like, I
Yeah.
really enjoyed
Yeah.
doing that, because I know he's getting love elsewhere, and that gives me
Mhm.
comfort. But also, like, it just really reinforced that concept that even though I felt a very close relationship with him, and you could describe it as friendly because he was very friendly a lot of the time, he wasn't my friend. He was my mentor, my teacher,
Yeah.
and he taught me what he meant to teach me, and he was done. And for that,
You
I can look back and be grateful for it.
Yeah, you know what I just realized is that I don't know for sure now that I think about it if the way that I would describe the connection that I have with my deities as friendship. I feel like a better word for me to use is a deep respect,
Mm, yeah.
because respect is it can sometimes feel like friendship,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's
That's a good way
different.
to put it. Yeah.
Like
There is a
I
love
just
there that's hard
yeah.
to describe because we don't have a lot of
Yeah.
words for love in the English language to discern
Right.
kinds of love.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
it's hard to describe.
And respect is a kind of love, but
It is.
it's a deep love in the sense that you love them so much that you know that regardless of whether or not they're there forever or a short time, there will still be deep respect there.
100%.
Like, I deeply respect Medusa. Medusa had to deal with me after Lucifer left. Poor
She
thing.
did Oh, she was so
She
good
was
with you.
she
She
was
was
so
so
great, though. Like,
great.
the times that I apologized, I was just like, "I'm so sorry," and she
Medusa's
was like,
amazing.
"It's okay." She was like, "It's fine. You're grieving." And I was like, "I feel terrible." And she was like,
Oh.
"It's
Oh,
okay."
she's great.
But,
She's
like,
good.
she's beautiful. Do I
She
ever
is.
think I'll work with her again? I would hope so, but, like, I actually don't know that I will.
Yeah.
I don't know that
Mm.
she would ever come through for me again. I hope so, but I
She
have a
she
shine for her
may.
anyway.
She may.
Yeah.
It just I knew that the ending with Ampu was the ending for good. Like, that was the end of our
Yeah.
chapter.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with
Yeah.
that because the
Yeah.
chapter as I read it was the best. And I'm
Yeah.
okay with that. But there are reasons that's would be a reason why a deity would depart is because they have taught you what they've meant to teach you, and that's the end of it. And again,
Yeah.
like I said at the beginning, it could come in a variety of ways. It could be maybe again later, like maybe Medusa might show up for Ariel in fucking 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 years, who knows? Like,
Right.
the it may happen again and it may not, and it's okay for there to be an end. And one of the things I'm grateful for is the lesson that comes with the end of a deity work
Yes.
relationship because that
It's
actually
powerful.
taught me something about myself in the same vein,
Mhm.
which was really cool. It really taught me that I have a lot of trust in divinity.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, it really is something that builds trust.
Yeah.
Trust is so it's honestly a constant theme and a vital part
Yeah.
of deity work
Mhm.
and really witchcraft in general.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah,
trust
for
in
sure.
yourself, trust in divinity, trust in spirit. There is so much trust that is necessary. I actually did a deity message before coming on to record, and it was a deity that came through. It was Lilith, and
Mm,
she was actually talking about that. She said, "Trust is the lifeblood of life."
mhm.
And it's true. You
Yeah.
can't really do anything without trust. You have to
Mhm.
trust in your body's capability of taking you through every day.
Yeah.
And we just don't even think about it. Like, trust
Yeah.
is huge.
I just
It gets
trust
you
my
through
heart's gonna
everything.
keep beating so I can complain
Yeah.
about the economy.
Yeah. We have so much trust. Yeah, we have so much trust in this meat suit. Like, it's incredible.
It's
Like, we're just,
wild.
yeah. But this is a really, really good segue into the next question, which is actually a really great question.
I like this
Um,
question.
Y'all have great questions. Let me
You
tell you.
do.
Someone asked, can you renegotiate terms and conditions with a deity? Like, if you were to have a deity come in and agree that you were going to do shadow work around a certain particular kind of trauma, and
Mhm,
then you finish that work with them,
mhm,
can you renegotiate? Like, let's say that they have a 2-year time limit
mhm.
that they're going to be working with you on that. Can you renegotiate that? I would say maybe. It depends. It
It
depends.
depends.
It depends. Because it really depends on whether or not the deity feels that it's necessary for you to work with them
Yes, that's the
in the
thing.
next thing.
Yep.
Because a lot of times there is a certain thing that a certain deity is working with you on. And especially with trauma work,
Yeah, yeah,
it can create this intense bond with that
yeah.
deity. And because of that, we cling to that as safety. It's like this
Mhm.
codependency thing. So when they want to leave, we're like, oh, but like you could help me with other things. Like
Yeah, yeah.
you can help me with other things. Like we could work on something. And it's not to say that they wouldn't be willing to, but you also have to ask yourself, are you wanting to do that because you just want to keep them with you? Or are you wanting to do that because you genuinely feel that they could assist you with that?
Mhm.
So it's really important to be honest with yourself of why you're wanting to renegotiate those terms, but you also have to know that they still might say no.
Yeah,
They
they
still
always
might
have the
say,
power to say no, just like you do.
mhm. Yeah, they might still be like, no, because there is someone else who's coming in for you who will be even better for you
Yep,
to work with. And
yep.
even though it feels like it's not going to happen that way right now, because you can't imagine working with any other deity that you would connect with as much as they connect with you, like
Yep.
you never know. You
You
really never know.
really never know.
Yeah,
It's
you really don't.
amazing. It's
Yeah.
amazing what you can discover when you just trust. When you just trust that
Hmm.
when it's the end and they're not willing to renegotiate, that there is something better coming.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
there's something beautiful and a new lesson to learn or a new relationship to create or a new path to discover.
Hmm.
Like you
And
just
that's a lesson in trust
trust
and hope.
and hope, yeah. Although hope,
Yeah.
I have a bad relationship with hope. That's something I'm working on.
Yeah.
Hope is I work on that,
I'm a
but
Sagittarius rising ruled by Jupiter, okay? Like I'm optimistic as fuck, but I'm
I
also
love
depresso
that.
espresso sometimes. I'm a depresso espresso optiment,
I'm a
okay?
realist. I need to be around optimists so that I don't sink.
This is why we're friends,
I
Fern.
know.
Because I can be depressed AF and she'll be like, I'm having a bad day. And I'm like, you know what? I'm having a terrible day too, but like, you're doing such a good job.
I'm like, "He's so pretty. He's so pretty, you're doing so
Yeah.
good."
Yep.
Oh, man.
If I know someone's having a hard day and I'm having a hard day, I will immediately switch my gears. I will
Yeah.
pretend to
It's
be the
true,
most
you do that.
optimistic person in the world.
You're like, "I swear I'm actually happy. I
Yep.
lied about everything I just said."
I lied about
Yeah.
just wanting everything to like end, but it's okay. We're gonna be fine.
We're gonna be
Like,
fine. We'll just keep paddling in this fucking
yeah,
boat. But
yeah.
you know what?
I'm in a
Listen.
sinking boat, but here's my life raft.
Here's my life raft for you,
Yep.
and it's a
Yeah.
one-seater.
Literally.
I love that. Oh god.
Being squishy is a detriment.
Odin's gonna
Okay.
Odin's gonna fix you on that one.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's sighing in the background.
Yeah, I
It's
know.
like,
He's
well,
like,
we got a lot of work to do with
God
this
damn.
one.
Look at this. Just, putting herself up on the stake, so to speak.
he, was, he just said, I admire your optimism, Ariel. Oh, Lord.
Oh man, but you know what? Like,
Okay.
listen, you can try. You can try. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with
You can
having
try.
that
You know
conversation.
what? Worst case scenario, they say no.
Yeah. Well, I don't know that that's the worst case scenario. I think that's an expected scenario. I think a
Yeah. Yeah.
worst case scenario could be real bad. It could be a bad
Oh, yeah.
ending, which
Oh,
does
well,
happen sometimes too. But
that scares me, to be
that
honest.
scares me too. It scares me too.
It
And
scares
you know
me.
what? Since this is a the whole fucking episode is about being honest
Yeah.
about deity work. Here
Yeah.
is
Ooh.
also a hard truth.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you fuck around and find out, which is a big part of learning, which we love. We love
Oh,
fucking around
yeah.
and finding out. But
Yeah.
also like if you
It's
can
a good approach
it's a
most
good
of the time.
approach, but if you can like mitigate,
Yes.
the
Don't be
potential
too
for
reckless.
failure. Yeah, if you can
Yeah.
mitigate that. I mean, but again, I'm also like a fucking crazy planner. But if you can mitigate the risk or the potential fallout, that's always a good thing to do. But if you fuck around and find out, which is a part of learning, and
Mhm.
you really fuck up a relationship with a deity, which does happen, and you insult them or you disrespect them somehow, consciously or unconsciously, whatever the case may be, if it comes to an end in that way, that's
You
going to be a
gotta take
hard
it on
thing.
the
You
chin.
got to take it on the chin. Like, you got to just
Yeah.
accept that, like, you did play a role, maybe in more than likely in that harsh end. And maybe there's a lesson to come out of that for you in terms
Yeah.
of maybe better preparation or with
And there's a
infernals,
lesson in responsibility and accountability there too.
responsibility, accountability. With infernals, use their fucking titles if it's the first time you meet them.
Yes.
Don't call in
Yes.
Lucifer and say Lucy. Like, don't be
Oh,
that person. I had to
don't do
throw
it.
it in.
Don't do it.
I had to
Don't do
throw it
it.
in. But
Even
like,
I still call him Lord Lucifer
yeah.
sometimes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Like,
Same.
I usually call him Lucifer because he has always like, for
Yeah.
me, he's always just been like, "No, you can just call me Lucifer."
Same with
But, like,
Leviathan, but there are
yeah,
times,
there are
especially
times.
in
Yes.
ritual, where I'm like,
Yes.
"This is Lord Leviathan." You
Yes.
know what I mean?
Yes.
Like,
When I'm
oof.
calling them in to help me with something, I won't be like, "I call in Lucifer." I'm like, "I call in Lord Lucifer to
Yeah,
assist me with this
I
session.
was like,
I'm
yeah.
calling in Duke Astroth to assist me with this session."
Yes.
Like, I'm not like, "I calling you honey boo." Like,
No,
no.
no,
No, no, no, no,
no.
no. Even
That's,
with the
again, a
Nordic
respect
gods,
thing.
and honestly, the Nordic gods are pretty fucking chill with me.
I
Like,
love that.
they let me have my cell phone on my altar, like, that is incredible.
Yeah, that's a no
Um,
for me. Well,
it's a definite no with my infernals.
I wish it was a yes
I
for
have
me.
it I have it, like, 2 inches away, and they're just like, "Nope, nope,
Yep, same.
nope."
Same with
But
the for me, for the Hellenics and the Infernals, they
mhm.
cell phone's a big no-no.
Yeah.
But and like that's part of the experience is
Yes.
figuring out what's acceptable and what's not acceptable and fucking around and finding out sometime is the way to like I remember the one day I absent oh my god. I knew I wasn't allowed to put my phone on the altar, right? Artemis and Apollin's altar because they share an altar together. Well,
Mhm.
most of the time, although she's got her own fucking thing going now. But anyway, as she should. But I absent-mindedly put it on the altar
Mhm.
one time while I was cleaning it, and she fucking ripped into me good. She's like,
Ugh.
"What the hell is this?" And I was like, "What? What?" Like, I didn't even know because I was absent-mindedly, like you're checking an
Mhm.
email or something and you put it down. She's like, "Get this the fuck off." Like, she didn't swear, but she was like, "Get this off right now. This is a sacred space." And I was like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry."
I'm so
Like,
sorry,
"Do
I'm
you
so
want
sorry.
water?" Like,
I
what
will
do you
give
want?
you a fountain.
I will give you a
Yeah.
fountain. Like oh man, I was so scared. And she was like, "Okay, it's fine, but just don't do it again." And that was the only lesson I needed to learn. I was
Yeah.
like, never again.
Yeah, but I think so kind of going back to like boundaries though, as far as like time limits of working with a deity, a little how to before we move on to the next question of like you can ask them
Mhm.
through whatever modality of communication you have, because I'm going to assume that you have one.
We're
Pause.
side-eyeing the
You know?
fuck out of
Yeah,
you.
we are.
We are
It's
side-eyeing the fuck out of
side
you right now.
eye.
Did you
Side
feel
eye.
that too? Like,
That was an ellipses is what that was in audible terms.
yeah.
I want you to use your modality of communication, whether that is tarot or whatever it is, and I want you to ask them, are you comfortable with us renegotiating terms and for you to stay longer? Yes or no? First of all, I just want you to ask them a yes or no. Second of all, if they say maybe or yes, or indicate that maybe they're open to it, I want you to say, what do you expect from me as a devotee of you in order for this to continue?
Yeah.
That's what I want you to ask. It's the exact thing that I want you to ask. And if you don't feel that you can fulfill that exact thing, do not
Don't
extend
do
it.
it. And also expect the possibility that the relationship will look different.
Yes. Yeah.
It's
Because
extremely possible that
they're
they may
approaching
think,
it different now.
yes,
Yeah.
things are
Yeah.
different now. So
Mhm.
it could be that they were maybe perhaps over those 2 years, they were real chill with you. They were like
Yep.
relaxed, amazing,
Yep.
sweet, kind, whatever the fuck.
Mhm.
And then moving forward, they're gonna be harsh. They're gonna be
Yeah.
militant. They're gonna be like you again, this comes back to putting all your cards on the table and doing
Yeah.
the work to have that open line of communication together.
Well, and that's why that also applies to patronage too, because
Yeah.
if you wanna take them on as a patron,
Mhm.
that dynamic might change.
I know the dynamic in all 5 of my cases changed.
1,000%. I'm gonna be honest, most of them were actually more demanding before I took them on as patrons.
I would say that was the case for a few of mine, but not all of
Yeah.
them, and
Not
then
all of them,
the reverse
but some of
in a
them.
couple of cases.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So, I know that we're going, "Yep, yep, yep," because it's like, you really just gotta figure it out yourself, like, you just gotta be like, "Okay,
Yeah,
are you gonna
I
accept more?"
listen, I wish I had the answers for everybody,
Yeah,
trust.
I
I
know.
wish I had the answers.
Wouldn't
I
it be
don't,
nice?
though.
Wouldn't
Yeah.
it be nice if
I was
we had
literally
answers?
thinking same brain.
Same brain.
That is the exact song that I was thinking of too. The last question that we have is also a really great question. A question about accepting patronage from a deity.
Yes.
Should I worry about complications in other lives later on? Which is a
Mm.
great question because we have gone over this. I think we touched on this when we were talking about taking on a patron
We did.
in the first episode, where we talked about how you can take on a patron and have them as a patron for you through multiple lifetimes. So
Yes.
this person's question is specifically, if you were to take on a patron in one
Mhm.
lifetime and say, I want you to be a patron for me in all of the rest of my lifetimes, or like, the next 5 lifetimes, whatever it is, do you need to take them on as a patron in that lifetime? What if you don't? Is that bad? Is that
Mhm.
something that's necessary?
So, I do have a response to that, and
I do have thoughts.
I do have thoughts in my brain space about this topic on the podcast. No. The reason why no is because each life is its own experience. And
Yeah.
in order to take on a patron, you need to have that mindful, like, you need to agree to that every lifetime for that to actually be the case. So just
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
Artemis was a patron of mine in past lives does not mean she automatically was that in this lifetime. I had to accept that agreement again. I needed to have
Right.
that conversation with her about expectations and boundaries and everything else again. And the reason for this is because you have free will in every lifetime, and every lifetime is different. That will have different experiences, different, you're a different person,
Purposes.
or
Yeah.
you may not even be a person else. Maybe you'll be a
Yeah, well,
fucking
because
plant.
what if you have a lifetime where you are meant to be a Christian the entire lifetime,
Yeah. Bingo.
you know?
You'll have a different experience every
Yeah.
lifetime. No lifetime is
They're
the
still
same.
gonna be there.
Yeah. Oh, they're
They're
still,
still
because
gonna
they're
be
gods.
there.
They're not going
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah, they're
But
still gonna be there, but it's going to not be the patron
yeah,
and
the
devotee
focus,
relationship. Yeah.
it may
Yeah.
not be. It could be, but it may not be. And so from
Oh,
that perspective,
sorry. I have something to add, but I'll let you finish. I'll
oh,
let you finish, but
I let
yeah.
I'll let you finish in a second. So from that perspective, no, but I wanted to expand on the word complications. in other lives, because that was a part of the question. And
Mm,
for that, that comes down to, I'm going to dissect this a little bit. I'm sorry, I have to. But
go for it.
I'm going to dissect that, cuz that depends on a belief. That depends on if you
Mm.
believe in like karma, or if you believe in like multi
Oh,
lifetime. Do you
yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
depends on your personal belief. My personal belief is, I don't believe that things, that if you were a bad person, or what we define as bad, either in that time or now or today or whatever the fuck, that if you fuck up in any way with a deity in a previous lifetime, that that's going to carry forward
Yeah,
to
I
this
don't think
one.
that.
I
Yeah.
don't think that that's the case, but it could be.
Yeah.
It could be. But as far as it, like, as far as having a patron in a previous life, that doesn't, you have to accept it again, because you have free will.
Right, right.
But I have heard stories of people saying something along the lines of, they reach out to a deity and the deity is like unnecessarily hostile, and it has
Oh,
something to
no.
do with a past life with them. And I'm
Oh,
like,
no.
whoa. So I've heard that things like that can happen. I've not
Oh,
experienced it myself.
yeah, I haven't personally experienced that. I do think yeah, so the thing that I was going to bring up is that, and this is kind of on the topic, but like maybe going off a little bit, is okay, so let's say there's a scenario where you agree to have a patron be your patron for, the next 5 lifetimes, whatever. And your next lifetime, you are part of a different belief system.
Mhm.
We're going to use Christian, for example, because that's the
Mhm.
one that I'm most familiar with outside of paganism. Let's say you're Christian and you're Christian your whole entire lifetime, and you have experiences with who you assume to be the Christian God
Mm.
during that lifetime. Do you think it's possible for those experiences to actually be your patron deity from the past lifetime who is still assisting you, but under the guise of the God that you worship in that lifetime?
Are you asking me?
Yeah,
I fucking do. I
I do
fucking do.
too.
I
Because,
fucking do.
okay, because,
1000% I do.
and here's why. Because it's not to say that you can't have a connection with, like, in this case, the Christian God in that lifetime, right? You can absolutely do that. But I do think that they are going to want to assist you some way.
Yeah.
And if they know that you are not going to accept them for who they are in that lifetime to you, I think they would still try to assist you in the way that they could.
Do you wanna know why I say yes?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Because I, with each one of my patrons, all 5 of them, I asked them to show me any past lives we might have had together, right? Just
Mhm.
for my own, I just wanted to know, because I fucking wanted to know.
Yeah.
And in the case of Artemis, Apollon, and Zeus, all 3 of them showed me experiences in past lives where I was living a life thinking I was interacting with one thing and it was actually them. So there was like profound memories of thinking that I was experiencing something paranormal, but it was actually them showing up in some spirit form. Or it another one was wildlife. Like, I was experiencing a boar in the woods, and that boar followed me around. I was just a little kid. Well, followed me around, and I remember this vividly, like as if it was in this life, but it wasn't. I was following this boar was following me around, and I was like trying to get back to where I lived, but I got lost, and I ended up deciding to follow the boar because it wasn't aggressive. That was Artemis. Like, what the fuck? Like, it's just, it can happen in the most bizarre
Yeah.
ways. Like, they can come through either in spirit, they can come through in an animal form, they could even be a person. Like, they
Yeah.
could even influence another person in a past life. And with Zeus, it's a much longer story than I can even condense. But anyway, that one was a difference in it. That one was actually around, it was a legal experience. It was around
Yeah.
law. Something happened with the courts. But anyway, so he came through in that one. But there were experiences where that lifetime didn't even know. Like, didn't even know.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
know because they showed me. Isn't that
Mhm.
weird? It almost makes you
No, it's
wonder what you don't know now even.
right. No, that's the thing. That's the thing. You were talking, like, as you started to talk, guess who tapped my shoulder?
Oh god. Oh
It
god.
was Lucifer.
Oh no.
Remember what we were talking about the other day?
We talk about a lot of things every day.
We were talking the other day about, like, there's something about Lucifer, and I can't
Mm.
figure out what it is.
Mhm. Mhm.
And he tapped my shoulder and he looked at me, and it all clicked.
Oh no. Oh no.
Yeah.
Past life.
Yeah. No.
Cool.
No, Alyssa.
What?
I don't know that any of the experiences that I thought I had with the Christian God in this lifetime was actually the Christian God. I'm wondering if it was Lucifer.
Oh, for realsies?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Deity work, baby.
I know. Well, because, like, okay, so to give some context, just in case we keep this in,
In case. Yeah.
Alyssa and I were talking the other day because there's when you're working with a deity, there's oftentimes when you come across times where you're like, there's something deeper here. Like there's a deeper connection that I haven't figured out. And sometimes it takes a really long time to like make those connections click. Obviously it's not necessary to know everything all the time, right? Or right away. There's timing for everything. But obviously, as a Christian, I had times where I felt like I had experiences with the Christian God. I felt a presence with me. I felt
Mhm.
a powerful presence and I felt that presence very deeply. Otherwise, I wouldn't have became a Christian. I wouldn't have said like, "Oh my gosh, I got saved." Like there's a very specific feeling that you get
Yeah.
when you have that conversion experience.
Oh, I'm sure it's profound.
Yeah,
I'm
it
sure it
it
is.
feels like you're being changed on a cellular level. Like it is very powerful. But what I found interesting was that when I so I'll share this because it's context. When I was out visiting Alyssa, there was a conversation that I had with the Christian God very unexpectedly.
Yeah, it was
Um
not planned.
It was not expected.
It was not
It was
planned.
very, very unexpected and very unplanned. The feeling that I got from that deity, I had never felt before. And that was a moment of enlightenment for me because I remember sitting there with you and being like, I've never felt this energy before. This is a deity that I've never experienced
I
before we knew
remember
who it
that.
was.
I remember that.
Yeah,
I
which is
fucking
weird for me
remember
to
that.
say because if I had experienced that deity before, I would have recognized them,
Oh my god.
right?
That is
Right.
wild.
So now I'm sitting here and
Dude,
Alyssa's talking about how like, yeah, I totally think that if they're meant to be with you, like they will not
find a
not
way.
fake being a deity,
No.
but be there in the way where they can connect with you in the way that you are seeking at that time.
Or to be a guide in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Lucifer's like tapping on my shoulder. She's talking about this boar story, and I'm just sitting here staring at my screen and
Well,
being
because
like,
you went quiet and I was like, something's happening over there.
yeah, I was like, oh my God. Because I I don't know, like
That's
I
cool.
I don't know what to say. Like it's
I feel like that's gonna well, you're gonna be exploring that for a bit. That's
yeah.
gonna be a hot minute.
I'm
You're gonna
I'm
be
gonna I'm gonna sit with that.
yeah, you're gonna need to sit with that shit. But you know what?
um
What you're experiencing right now is the same thing that happened when Apollon came forward
yes.
and was like, "That was
Yes.
me."
Mhm.
With
That was a
the
beautiful experience while I was folding laundry.
God damn it. That was wild. Like, it was like everything it's like you see
Yeah.
flashes of things in your face and you're like, "The fuck?" Like, everything changes
Mhm.
in a
Yeah.
moment.
No, I literally was sitting here, you're telling this story, and I'm having, like, flashbacks of, like, sitting on my floor crying
Yep.
and
Yep.
standing in church and feeling, like,
Mhm.
this powerful experience of connecting, like, the moments the 2 moments 'cause I felt like I wasn't saved the first time, so I felt like I had to do it twice. Like, the 2
Mm.
months that I felt like I was saved, and like just all of these experiences. But then it just, wow,
We
there's a
can
lot. Yeah,
What a
that's,
cool
yeah.
discovery that we just had
Look at that. Who would
together.
have thought? Who would have
Ugh.
thought?
Oh, so the one last thing I want to address before we bring this deity work part 2 to a close is a sort of second part of the question, which is, in the case with Ariel and I, we both have patrons in Ariel's got patrons in the Norse pantheon and the infernal pantheon,
Mhm,
and I've got patrons in the Hellenic pantheon and infernal pantheon. So the
mhm.
question here is around accepting patron, like having a patron deity relationship. If you have it across multiple pantheons, does that preclude you from another path or set you on a particular path or whatever sort of that, you know what I mean? Like if you
Mm,
agree to being on this path, does that stop you from being able to be on another, if especially in a patron situation? And I'm going to
gotcha.
answer this with it depends. And the reason why
It
it
depends.
depends is because it depends on the way that you set up your practice. There are
Yeah,
lots of people who consider themselves eclectic and don't follow any particular set religion or tradition or cultural path or anything like that, and have their practice that has many different pillars of many different pantheons and thus those different cultures, but they don't follow any specific, like they don't say they're a Norse pagan, they don't say they're a Hellenic polytheist, they don't say they're a
right.
Celtic pagan. They just kind of envelop themselves as eclectic, and but they still have those sprinkles, if you will, of various different deities in pantheons. So that's one way to approach one's practice. And then there's another way, which is a little bit more on a definite path, which is like Ariel and I, we both identify as demonolators. So we worship and work with demons, our patrons, and other demons as well. And
Mhm.
then Ariel identifies as a Norse pagan. And so she follows that path and the traditions that follow that. And I identify as a Hellenic polytheist and follow the traditions and the culture of that. But
Mhm.
it can look different for any
Yeah.
individual, right? It could be some variation of that. They could be really traditional, they could be a revivalist, they could be
Right,
like there's
right.
so many different variations of how that could be, but it ultimately does depend on your relationship with those particular deities that happen to be from different pantheons. And I'm going to tell you, in my scenario, I didn't have to ask permission to be a Hellenic polytheist and follow that religion from
Yeah.
Leviathan. I didn't need it because he already knew that that was going to happen anyway. He already
Right,
knew
right.
that I was down that path and was going to identify with that path, and that was going to be like a huge part of my practice. But in so doing, part of our conversation by me saying I'm going to go down this path means that I'm going to be very traditional and very like a little bit recon, a little bit revivalist in that way with the Hellenic pantheon, but I'm not going to approach demonolatry the same way. And so we had that conversation. So there was no question of like if I did this for those patrons, he was expecting anything different. Like there's no jealousy. Like that doesn't exist with
Yeah,
them.
yeah,
Like there's no like,
yeah.
oh, you gave another water offering to Artemis. While you've been fucking TikTok bitch. Like I've
Yeah.
been waiting for my whatever. That doesn't happen. It doesn't work like that. So the answer is it depends. It really could, because there are some people who will follow a particular tradition that absolutely, as part of that tradition or culture or religion, requires you do not follow anything else.
Right,
So
right.
it so there would be, under that premise, if you were to take a patron in a specific religion, culture, tradition, or what have you, that is part of it, that you literally can't do anything else. So yes, that can happen, but it also can be the opposite. It could also be any mixture of those within. So I understand this question and where it comes from, on the basis of not really knowing yet what your path is going to be. And
Yeah.
your path, we always talk about this, like, your practice, your
Yeah.
path is always gonna change as you change. But I wanna say this as well, is that even though even though you will change and there will be parts of your practice that are gonna be more heavily influenced now by certain deities and later by others perhaps, that doesn't mean that you can't commit to something if it feels right in the moment, if it feels right for you
Yeah.
at that time.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And because there are even pathways that I ended up taking
Mhm.
due to the patrons that I've taken on without
Mhm.
knowing that they were gonna take me there. Like,
Mhm.
with Hell, she right from the get-go was like, "I wanna be a patron, and you're gonna be a death witch." And I was like, whoa, like, whoa, slow down." Um, and that was expected. But, for example, like Odin, he wanted to be
Mhm.
a patron of mine, and I expected that when I would take him on as a patron, like, obviously, that's adding more responsibility to my Norse pagan path, more weight to it, but what I didn't expect was taking him on as a patron would lead me to necromancy, because that was not expected at
Yeah.
all,
Oh my
at
god, that was like
all.
taking on Zeus as a patron and him pushing me harder into ancestor veneration.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
not
and I was just
expecting
like,
that.
"What the hell?"
I was like, "What
Like,
in the
it
hell is this?
yeah,
This
yeah,
wasn't in
it's
your
like
pamphlet."
they pull the Uno reverse card, and
Yeah.
I'm like, "What are you doing?
I was like, "Where
What
in
are
the
you doing, man?"
brochure was that fine
Yeah,
print?
why are we going so fast?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they just will take you on the roller coaster ride and they're just like, "Oh, by the way, there's a 20-foot drop here."
Yeah.
And it's cool because I think I this kind of goes into something that I tell my clients a lot, and really anybody who will listen to me rant, is if you knew everything that was going to happen to you, would you still want to go forward?
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
And so it's there's always going to be those unknowns. There's always going to be those variables, but it's about being willing to just explore it. And we you have to have that mindset, because if you don't, like, you're just going to be greatly disappointed, because
Honestly,
there's
again, it
always going to be those unexpected drops.
it comes back to the trust that we've been talking
Yep.
about this
Yep.
whole time,
It's
is
that
trust.
undercurrent.
Yeah,
Yep.
the undercurrent of trust. So, I hope that these harder conversations, these harder truths, some of them are harder to swallow than others. It's all part of the beauty and the learning and the growing that comes with deity work. And it's not always gonna be rosy and peachy keen.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're gonna get thrown curveballs, you're gonna get pushed into weird, awkward, awful positions, it's gonna be tough. And that, I think, is where the most growth comes from, is when you're pushed out of your
Oh,
comfort zone.
absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Where we grow the most is when we're uncomfortable
Yep.
and when we have fear, but we push through it anyway. And at the
Which
very
literally
least,
is what we did, because this
yeah,
is like, we were
this was terrifying.
this was
I'm not gonna
hard. This is
lie.
hard to do.
This was a scary episode.
Yeah,
I
it
I
is.
feel like I was on a wooden roller
It's
coaster the
so
entire
sweaty.
time.
So sweaty. But, like, yeah, it's hard because, we never want anyone to assume that by us being honest and truthful, that
Yeah.
we are trying to, be disingenuous
Yeah.
on our true intention, which is to have this honesty be used in a way that
Yes.
is helpful.
Yeah. Here's the thing. We love you enough to be honest with you.
Yeah, exactly.
If we didn't care about you, we wouldn't be honest with you.
And we also love you enough to admit that we may have not been the best at communicating
Yeah, we
these
might have
hard
made a
truths.
little whoopsies.
We may have done a little oopsie-daisy.
But you know what? Like, if we ever do that, like, we're going to try to take responsibility and accountability where we can. And I hope that at the very least this episode helped to help you to have some revelations and light bulb moments, and help you to feel even more confident in your deity work. If not, help you to understand what you can be maybe shifting and changing where needed to make your deity work even deeper and more fulfilling, because
Mhm.
that's ultimately what we want. We want you to feel fulfilled in your pathway, and we want you to feel fulfilled in your practice. And that comes with those difficult conversations and honest conversations. So that's what we want to leave you with. But with that said, this concludes Deity Work number 2. And for those interested in booking a session with Alyssa or I, or learning more about us, you can go to our website, www.ghosttpodcast.com, and you can go to the About page where we have all of our socials linked and our websites and a little bit of information about us. But at the very least, check out the website, because there's a lot of fun things on there that you might not find. And you can also find a link to the Discord as well if you want, in the links at the top.
And don't forget to rate and share Ghost Tea Podcast. Rate us
Yes.
on Spotify if you use Spotify. That is a great platform to use. And there
Yes,
is a
yes.
little star button that you can find at the top of the Ghost Tea Podcast page when you're on it through Spotify. There's a little star that you can
Mhm.
click, and you can leave us an awesome little rating and share with your friends if you want to share the amazing knowledge and insight and advice and guidance and fun laughs and things like that. And so, yeah, that all of that helps us to be able to continue to create even more amazing episodes and to be able to continue to bring in more ghosty fun.
Yeah, we love stars. It makes us feel good.
We like to see the
We lo-
stars.
All right, everybody. We hope you have a good one. We love
Okay.
you all. Thank you
Love
so
you.
much for your support. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.